right, what is going on? We are here with first ever video on this channel, podcast. If you're listening to podcasts, whatever, it's easier to post on YouTube. I don't really fucking know where to post a podcast, but we move. Anyway, we're here. We're going to talk of some football. We just watched absolute shambolic display by the Denver Broncos. So we jumped in a call. We're going to talk about football, talk about week one, our thoughts on the games, and everything. So let's start with the the joke of a football game the Denver Broncos played today.
Anybody out there that you have any dreams, aspirations, chase them. Because these coaches that we've seen this weekend, hey man, you can do anything you want in life.
Yeah, I mean this has been not the best weekend for NFL head coaches, collegiate head coaches, just in general. This is going to be more NFL based. We may dabble in college here and there, but Jesus, I mean, Nathaniel Hackett has got to be just. You can't put a coach on the hot seat after his first game, but if you could, I mean, I would.
He'd go,
I
he'd
would.
be smack on her, wouldn't he?
I would put him on there. So let's just to kind of talk about some things we took away from the game. I thought we have a kind of a differing opinion on Russ. I thought Russ kind of looked a little dusty to me. I didn't think his arm was super live. I thought his decision making, his check downs, he just didn't look very comfortable. I don't know, man. Maybe it's just the offense. He's not comfortable in the offense yet. But when you've got 4 minutes to go score and you just start checking the ball down every play, still, it's not something that I would want my quarterback to do. That I just traded a bunch of picks for.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you there. That the decision making not to push the ball down the field, and 4 minute offense. You're not just trying to score, to kick a field goal to win the game, and get out of there. You should be trying to push the ball downfield to score a touchdown, especially when you have these weapons out there, Jerry Judy, Cortland Sutton. And instead, Nathaniel Hackett just decides, hey man, we're going to hit some swing passes, some screens, some draws, and we're just going to try to get in field goal range and try to win the game.
Yeah.
But when you hand this guy all this money and you gave up all this capital for him, it doesn't really make any sense to play like that. And I guess, I mean, it kind of goes back to his quote on Russ during during training camp, is they wanted him to get the ball out of his hands quicker. They didn't want him to play like classic Russ. So I mean, I think you could really see it tonight that they were pretty conservative, and he doesn't want Russ to go and throw a game away. And so considering all of that, I thought he looked fine. I thought the touchdown pass to Judy, obviously he underthrew, but outside of that, I mean, he hit all his throws for the most part. And I, I would put this more on the game planning, not being prepared for the loud crowd in Seattle. Which out of anybody should know how loud it is. It should be Russ. They couldn't get the calls in. They were snapping at one, the whole
Yeah, I mean,
game.
yeah, I agree. I mean, that was to me probably the most telling thing for the game was the team that you expected to come out and snap the ball with 1 second left every play was not Denver, if anything, right? And
Yeah,
obviously, maybe me not knowing enough about Nathaniel Hackett because apparently last year the Packers were very very slow paced offense, and maybe that's just how Hackett likes to run things. But you think you got a really really good quarterback in Russell Wilson. You talked about the weapons outside. Again, I'm gonna sound like a crazy hater, and I don't want to do that, but I mean, Cortland Sutton was unremarkable today to me. And again, it could just be the game plan. It could have been just poor game planning to not get him the ball where he's best. But when Javonte Williams nearly has more targets than Sutton and Judy combined, I just think the game plan the game plan was not
less than less
ideal.
than less
Yeah,
than desirable.
yeah. I mean, and look, I thought Javonte because there's a lot of hype around him for what he did last season, and everybody kind of just assumes he's the better back. I mean, I thought Melvin Gordon looked good tonight too. I thought Melvin Gordon looked fine last year, but Javonte Williams, if you played him in DFS, played him in DraftKings, if you played him in fantasy season long, whatever, if it's PPR, then he ate tonight. He definitely did. Obviously, him and Melvin Gordon both had fumbles at the goal line too, which really hurt. Gave the ball to Seattle. Man, I mean, just what an interesting display from
Yeah,
Nathaniel Hackett. Now, on the flip side of that, I do think we would be remiss to not talk about Geno a little. I thought that Geno played a serviceable football game for an NFL quarterback, if unspectacular.
Yeah,
Yep.
I agree. I love the game plan from Shane
Yep.
Waldron, offensive coordinator for the Seahawks. I mean, bunch of RPOs, moving the launch point for him, not really making him sitting in the pocket and delivering passes. That's not really his strength.
No.
So I mean, they played unlike Denver. They played to their quarterback strength. They hit a bunch. They hit some explosive plays, off play action, bootlegs, quick passes. Really smart game plan. You could tell that and Pete Carroll has been a guy that's wants to play slow, hand the ball off,
Exactly.
win with defense. And tonight, at least in the first half, we saw a much different team, like a much different offense, at least design wise. And I thought that was pretty impressive from a team we all thought would be one of the two or three bottom teams in the NFL.
Yeah, and I think the thing is they just didn't come out there and roll over and die, and I think that's kind of what people maybe thought they were going to do. But they were, I thought they were, especially early on, very aggressive. I thought they really took it to Denver in a lot of ways. And Geno, he had a horseshoe a couple of times tonight where he got a little bit lucky with some crazy decisions, some crazy throws. But I mean, he had dudes open. I mean, it just felt like kind of an interesting uh, defensive struggle for Denver at times too. Where, and again, I think people kind of maybe underestimate isn't necessarily the right word, but kind of undervalue what Vic Fangio meant to that defense. And again, they gave up 17 points. They gave up none in the second half. So it's not necessarily that Denver's defense played badly, but I
Yeah.
think they were late to adjust, and Seattle was able to kind of capitalize, especially in the first half. And then when your offense was as anemic as Denver's was today, that sometimes is just it's just too late. I think for anybody that does underdog fantasy, you probably were in a similar boat to me tonight because if you were smart, the smart play was to pump Rashad Penny carries because you thought Seattle was going to play slow. They were going to try to keep it a close game, and it was a close game. But he did not hit his 17 carries that I needed tonight. Geno did throw under 29 times, but at the end, it was an interesting game plan. Geno ran around a little more than I thought he was going to as well. He had 6 carries. I don't remember him running that much, but I do remember he broke one long 14-yard run. Kind of a big play. I just I thought Geno played well. He hit a lot of different targets. Got DK, tried to get DK involved. Lockett was quiet, but DK was really quiet too. It was really kind of usually it's a DK or Lockett, and tonight it was really neither. But I think
Yeah, and
that
I
will
was
kind of improve as the year goes on. I would say.
yeah, I was also impressed just trying to get DK the ball and different facets. Not just obviously we're used to him catching the big deep ball, but I mean it was the screen game, it was the slant game, a lot of the quick game just to get the ball in his hands. And again, going back to offensive coordinator for Seahawks, that was just really impressive.
Yeah, just a great game plan. Just a great game plan. And people talk about offensive coordinators and just uh, putting together these types of game plans, especially against a defense that was pretty vaunted in Denver. I mean, a lot of people really really liked Denver's defense this year, and they just kind of came out and again they made adjustments, but the adjustments just happened a little bit too late, especially when the offense just tonight, for what it's worth. And again, I give Russell I gave him a hard time tonight, but 29-42, 340. You know, you expect to probably win that game when your quarterback plays that way, especially when the other quarterback is 195 yards. But it just it just was Geno's night, and man, team meetings in the Broncos building. I probably wouldn't want to be there
That
next
will
year.
that will not be fun.
I will not want to be there. So we'll talk about the Thursday game. And to be fair to us, we were not able to watch every single game. Obviously, there's games that we missed. I usually have 8 games up. I'm not catching every single play, but I get the gist of what's going on. But man, Thursday we got to put our attention on Thursday, and I don't want to talk about every game in an extensive fashion necessarily, but the Denver game is so fresh and it's just so just baffling and bizarre. It feels
Yeah,
like it deserved 10 minutes worth
yeah. We
talk.
could probably talk about that for hours and
we could spend
hours.
we could spend a week. We could spend a week until Denver plays again
Yeah,
talking about that shambles of a game. Just talking about how much money we put
yeah.
down. Talking about just every. I mean, we really could. But we're gonna move. We're gonna move to third. Now, I will say, my DraftKings lineups did okay, but I split them in half because at the last second. And the one that I was gonna go with, and I had locked in, I was like, "This is the one I'm gonna do." And then I split it. Obviously, the one that I was going to go with before is the one that hit. So, in my cash games, if I fucking just left it alone, then we'd have been fine. But either way, that's fine. Thursday, St. Louis or St. Louis, Jesus, L.A.
Back in 2008, huh?
They played like St. Louis. They didn't play like the L.A. Rams that we know from
Yeah,
high
he
school.
looked
They
like
played
Mark Bolger and Steven Jackson back
looked
there.
like Jeff Fisher. Looked like 8-8 to me today or on Thursday. Buffalo, again, as a Dolphins fan, seeing Buffalo succeed doesn't make me happy. I wanted them to lose. They didn't really look very vulnerable either, which is kind of what I was hoping for. They looked like the finished product that we expected. And the Rams looked like shit. They looked horrible to me. So just go ahead and give us, your thoughts on the game, because we definitely watched this full game too.
Yeah, I mean, the progression that Josh Allen has made throughout his smooth tenure so far as an NFL quarterback has just been nothing short of just impressive.
It's
I
absurd.
mean,
Yeah, it's absurd.
it's just absolutely absurd. I mean, he has obviously we all knew he had all the physical traits, but
Absolutely.
to go through his progressions and reading defenses and being on time with the ball and accurate, just every pass he makes. I mean, the two interceptions, I in my opinion, I thought neither were really his fault. You could debate on the winner Jameson Crowder. I thought he kind of drifted on his route, didn't really flatten the dig off, but. Outside of those, really only that play, he just played absolutely outstanding. And then obviously with his legs, he's super lethal. And that team is going to be alone. I mean, their secondary is just going to get better with Tre'Davious White coming back.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where we thought kind of the weakness, at least in this game, was going to be for Buffalo. We thought that LA would probably be able to exploit the secondary a little bit. I remember I definitely had Cooper Kupp in my lineups on Thursday, and he definitely smashed. He hit crazy. Again, LA, their defense was very, very well respected coming into this game, and I think maybe we not necessarily pump the brakes, because I don't think a lot of teams have offenses like Buffalo, but the Rams definitely looked a little exploitable. I thought their offense was putrid under Stafford. I thought that his inability to find anybody other than Cooper Kupp could be a real hindrance to the offense. And again, Cooper's going to get his, right? I mean, he's going to get his 15 targets. He's going to get his 10 plus catches. He's going to get a touchdown. But I mean, that's the only touchdown of the game for the Rams. It's not going to work. So I mean, you got to find somebody else. And I think the offseason signing of Allen Robinson makes absolutely no sense for that team whatsoever, because you don't need, and I don't think any team really needs, a tall, aging wide receiver that can't get open. And people love Allen Robinson. They just love him because of that one season he had with the Bears where he just went crazy. But he's not the same guy. And if he is the same guy, then the league has found him out, man. He just looks terrible. And Stafford did not throw him the ball. Rams, I mean, they'll bounce back. Their division, in my opinion, is not as strong as people may think it is. I think they're going to be fine based off of what we saw from the Cardinals, based off of what we saw from San Francisco. But, man, LA just, in my opinion, didn't look great. And on the flip side of that, I thought, again, Buffalo, still no real running game to speak of. Doesn't really matter. They just look good, man. And it's, again, as a Dolphins fan, scary times, because we play them in 2 weeks, I think, and that's not going to be an enjoyable game. So, speaking of, they are the first team here. So, and we will talk about this one in a little bit of detail, just because it's a team that I'm a fan of. Now, obviously, very polarizing figure in this game at quarterback for the Miami Dolphins. I am a pro Tua guy, always have been. Think he came into Alabama, which I'm also a fan of, and revolutionized that offense, revolutionized that team. Just changed everything, really, because we were kind of in a funk where we were still a pro style team, and he just came in and really shifted gears in the whole program, basically. And he was going up against another former Bama quarterback, which I can no longer be a fan of, in Mac Jones. And I thought, in terms of their play, obviously Tua got the better of him on Sunday, I believe. So, your thoughts on that game? I mean, I don't know how much you caught of it, but probably a fair
Yeah, I
bit.
mean, good amount of it. We were all,
Yep.
sitting there watching it,
Right.
and
Right.
I mean, very, the performance from the Patriots, much to be expected, especially offensively when you have Matt Patricia and Joe Judge front of the offense. And I don't
Not
think we can
shocking,
really,
right? Yeah.
yeah, to be the greatest show on turf, So
Uh,
I mean,
wow.
they don't really have many separators out there at the wide receiver position either. You go
No.
and get a guy like Devontae Parker, who he probably should be playing in the CFL at this very moment, but you know, it just it's really disappointing to watch. Bill Belichick, which is really crazy to think about, is him and Saban are super close, and one guy has adapted to this modern era of football, which is obviously Nick Saban,
Yeah.
because once he was defensive, win defense, win 10-7, whatever you got to do to
Oh yeah.
win,
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
put game managers back there,
Yeah. We won a national
and
championship
now
like 13-0. So I
yeah,
mean, that was a long time ago. But
exactly.
yeah, I mean, well, I agree. Watching Bill, he watching it kind of all catch up to him a little bit
It's
it's
just really
sad in a way. It is because it's you can see it's kind of the end of an era, and you kind of just wish that he would have gone out when Brady went out. Like Brady left his Bills.
yeah,
It was probably just time for him to say, you know what, I don't really feel like being in charge of a complete overhaul rebuild of this team.
yeah, exactly.
Because what they were able to do with Brady was really they didn't have to do a whole lot when they had him. They didn't have to bring in
Mhm.
star players to put around him. I mean, they brought in Randy Moss and then a few players here and there, but it never was a star-studded cast. It was never the greatest show on turf with New England, but it was a very well coached, which I think they still are. They're a
Yeah.
disciplined, well coached football team, especially on the defensive side of the ball, which is why again I was impressed with Miami's offense to an extent. I thought that coming in, uh, would help. Um, I don't know if he helped more than Tyreek, but I mean, coming in and trying to establish some sort of rushing attack. Uh, I don't remember Tyreek getting a carry. I don't remember Waddle getting a carry. Uh, but apparently they did. I don't remember Cedric Wilson getting a carry. Apparently he did as well. 23 rushing attempts and 33 passing attempts. Um, it's reasonable. I obviously would love to run more plays than 56 or however many they ran, but beggars can't be choosers. I was just happy to, anytime you beat a Bill Belichick team, you're probably happy about it, and um,
Yeah.
especially
Yeah.
first game with a new coach, new offense, new scheme, everything was kind of different, and I was happy
Mhm.
that they were able to at least pull away with a win, even if it was kind of maybe a little more unconvincing than I would have hoped for, I guess.
Yeah, I mean it's everything you kind of expected with McDaniel. All the
Sure, yeah.
little motions, fly sweeps, all that type stuff, and to really get to moving the launch point, getting easier throws, some RPO stuff. I mean, it was everything you really expected, and I think there were points left on the board for Miami too.
For
So
sure, for sure.
yeah,
Yeah,
I mean going forward, you got to be excited if you're a Dolphins fan, going forward.
yeah, I think so, and I think the only reason that you wouldn't be excited is that you're in a division with the Bills and Josh Allen for the next 10 years. That's the only thing
Yeah.
that's kind of an unexcitable thing, and it hurts me because people are going to compare to Josh Allen constantly because they're in the same division and just say that and he's never ever going. I don't believe ever going to be the caliber of quarterback that Josh Allen is, just because he is limited. His physically he's limited. I think his obviously his arm is not anywhere close to Josh Allen's, but there's been so many quarterbacks in the league that have made it with less intangibles, less
Oh,
talent than Tua.
100%.
So I mean,
Yeah.
to me, it's more about how can you limit his mistakes, because he definitely made some mistakes, and he would, I'm sure, be the first to tell you that. And I've heard him and McDaniel both say it in press conferences that they left points on the board. But I mean, realistically, the Patriots took a 90-yard touchdown drive in the third quarter that took like 8 minutes off the clock. So when you got a team eating into the clock like that, I mean, it's hard to, because by the time you get the ball back, you're thinking, all right, we got to close the game down. Like we got to shut up shop because it's a it's what
Yeah.
a 10 point, 13 point game at that point. So you're thinking, okay, we got to damage control. Let's get the game over with. Not let's just keep pumping the points on the board. So again, like I said, and I will say, I thought the defense played really well. I don't think we've really gotten a true feel for what they're going to be because of
Mhm.
New England's offensive or just their limited offensive approach, I guess. But you know, I don't know. I mean, I thought defensively they played fine. They obviously scored a touchdown on defense, a big sack. Brandon Jones. I like to see us still bringing exotic blitzes. So Brian Flores not being there at least this week did not really affect the outcome of the game, which is good because everybody thought just because Brian Flores left that the defense was going to suffer. So obviously, not too bad, I guess. Well, we did see parts and bits and pieces of this game. The Saints and the Falcons. Oh, Atlanta. I mean, 26-10, 16-point lead.
Classic. Just a
man.
classic, Falcons choke, I guess.
Man, it is hard to be Atlanta, man.
Yeah, I did miss, with the first touchdown drive the Saints had to, cut it to 8. But I saw some stuff on Twitter and guys ripping, Dean Pease because apparently they stopped bringing pressure and they stopped blitzing when they went up 16 and they went more, 3 and 4 man rushes and more of like not really a prevent, but, a safe defense, keeping in front. And Jameis absolutely just ripped him a new one in the fourth quarter. And you just can't, you have to pressure Jameis. If you give him a clean pocket with those weapons, I mean, he's going to rip you apart. And that's exactly what happened in the fourth quarter. I mean, 17 unanswered to, come back and win the game. Really impressive, but on, the Falcons and just, much of the same, I guess, from that organization.
Yeah, I mean, and you got to think at least in terms of obviously Arthur Smith's not thinking of this. Obviously Arthur Blank's not thinking of this either. But I mean, a loss really doesn't hurt if you're Atlanta because realistically you're not competing this year. You really, I'm not saying you want the first pick necessarily, but you definitely want a top 5 pick. You got to try to get yourself some kind of something. Mariota, I mean, kind of like Geno Smith, except he didn't win.
Yeah,
I mean,
I would say it was. It was exactly like kind of Geno Smith. I mean, they were running a lot of the stuff he was successful in, in college. A lot of pistol stuff. Again, moving the launch point, a lot of RPOs, letting him, get loose with his legs. I mean, 12 carries for 72 yards and a touchdown. I mean,
that's a solid
it's like he was playing.
I mean, that's really good.
Yeah,
that's really
it was a really good plan by Arthur Smith.
Yeah.
Until the fourth quarter happens, and you fold it away. It sucks. You outplayed them for 3 and probably some change, 3 quarters and some change, just to kick it away.
Fix is in, man. Fix is in. It's time to tank in Atlanta. Fix was in. I mean, Mariota again. Counting for nearly 300 yards on your own is solid, and we'll get into fantasy maybe later this week. You can talk about some different things with fantasy, but Marcus Mariota 72 yards on the ground, 12 carries on the ground, as well as passing 33 times. That is a very solid fantasy floor for a team that's going to be playing from behind quite a bit. And Drake London, was nice to see him out there. Drake, 5 catches, 74 yards, really solid effort from him. 7 targets is encouraging. Kyle Pitts with 7 targets. I think the biggest fantasy takeaway is probably Cordero Patterson, still getting crazy volume that you would hope for. So rumors of his demise were greatly exaggerated. Tyler Algier was not even he wasn't even on the thought. He was inactive. He was a healthy scratch. So I mean,
Avery Williams, sees the field.
Exactly. The Williams brothers, Avery and Damian, out there just taking some backup touches. But man, I mean, Cordero, and then Taysom Hill, obviously in there to poach for Kamara, who I had to draft in season long, 12th pick, fantastic value for me. 9 carries, 39 yards, and 4 targets, yeah. So just terrible. Michael Thomas, good to have him back. He I don't think he's necessarily at his previous best, but again, 2 touchdowns and not getting 15 targets, but 8. I mean.
Yeah, he made some tough catches on those final 2 drives to kind of go win the game. So, I mean, it's really encouraging to see.
I mean, dusty old Jarvis Landry just dusted off
a blast from the past tonight. Man. I mean,
vintage performance from Jarvis, man. 40 yards, probably as far as he can run, but when he got going, his lights out for Jarvis, right? So really interesting game from Jarvis as well. So we go back here, Niners Bears. I got to be honest with you, I didn't watch much of this.
Yeah, we didn't see any of this really.
I didn't want to watch this. I didn't want to watch 2 teams play around in the mud.
It's just really hard to get a gauge on either team when the field's underwater.
Yeah, you don't know anything, and again, on DFS, as soon as I woke up and saw that that was the conditions, I took every Bear and Niner out of any lineup that I had. Just I did not want any part of that game. And I don't think it bears much to talk about. People obviously calling for Trey Lance's head after week one and in the rain. They probably need to go outside, but it's just tough because again, like you said, you really don't know anything about those teams. It's hilarious that the Bears won. Again, Dolphins fan, Niners lost. That's our pick. We take that. I'll be rooting for Trey Lance's downfall for this season, and after that, he can have whatever kind of career he wants to have. But this year, I need him to be terrible. Speaking of terrible, next game on the slate was Steelers Bengals. That game was shambolic. It was just a terrible
Neither
game.
neither team wanted to win.
No,
It was
no,
atrocious.
and
But I mean,
Zach Taylor. I mean, what happened? Oof, man. I mean, just bad in every sense of the word. Bad. Joe Burrow just could not handle cover two.
That I I was saying it last year. A lot of these teams gave them single coverage, and I mean, all their explosive plays. What are they? Jamar Chase, go dunk on somebody. T. Higgins, go dunk on
Go dunk
somebody.
on somebody, right?
Yeah, and now I hope the rest of the league saw what Pittsburgh kind of put out there this week. You put two high safeties over, you mix in some cover two, some quarters, some 2 man under, and you really forced Burrow to work the middle of the field, which obviously, you know, if you pay attention at all, he has below average arm strength here in this league. So he can't really fit those balls into those tight holes across the middle of the field. He can't really drive that ball, and you saw the picks. I mean,
Oh
they were
man.
catching up to the to the dudes. Or
Yeah.
I think if teams really employ that defense, it's going to be rough for Cincinnati. They're going to have to do kind of what Kansas City did and get under center and maybe run the ball a little more, play action, some bootleg stuff.
Well, run the ball. They did. At least they tried to. Joe Mixon, 27 carries, 82 yards. I mean, look, I was getting ready to come on here and talk about how well I thought Joe Mixon played, but maybe it was just the pass catches that I saw from him. 27 carries for 82 yards is an abysmal day at the office.
They also ran near one play under. Not. I'm sorry, my math's a little off, but they ran just under 100 plays, 87 plays.
Yeah.
Insane.
That's a lot, man. That's a lot. And again, look, fantasy wise for Cincinnati, obviously Jamar Chase got his. Joe Burrow probably still got you a decent amount of points, even with the 4 picks, because picks don't even matter in fantasy. Really, it's like -1 or 2. Who cares? And Burrow with his legs. I mean, he's 6 carries, 47 yards. If he does that consistently this year, Burrow's going to be a fantasy guy. I mean, that people can rely on. He's obviously not going to run that much, but even if he runs like 2 or 3 times and gets you 20, that's solid on the ground from a guy that you wouldn't expect it from. Really, like I said, Jamar, it was Jamar. I mean, he got a touchdown late that he probably never should have been open for, but that's a different discussion and just a terrible defensive call to even give him the opportunity to have that touchdown. But Joe Mixon, man, I mean, he's a tough DFS play because when you think about Cincinnati, you think about how talented the pass catchers are. You think about Burrow's ability to get them the ball, and especially last season where they just lit the league on fire. But if Joe Mixon is going to command anywhere close to 9 targets and 20 carries, man, he is definitely in consideration almost every week, in my opinion, even behind that putrid offensive line that gave up 7 sacks. Hayden Hurst as well. I mean, Hayden Hurst was $3,300 on DraftKings, and he smashed it out of the park for you because that's 9.6. I mean, he tripled his value. That is, it's 8 targets as well. I mean, he's definitely a guy moving forward. You got to look at a tight end if his price doesn't just skyrocket.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, you may see some Mixon going forward. I mean, if teams are going to stay kind of that 2 eye shell and kind of sink back, you're going to see Mixon leak out. What the Bengals do, that little check and release in the middle of the field and 2-3 yards,
Yeah,
at a time.
absolutely.
Yeah, so I mean that's.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I thought, from the glimpses that I caught of him, I thought he had a good game, and then obviously seeing the box score maybe says a little differently. T. Higgins obviously got hurt as well in that game, so you obviously never want to see that happen to anybody. But T. Higgins is not a player that I'm super high on just in general. He to me, in my opinion, he's a jump ball merchant, which is fine. You can be a jump ball merchant in this league. It's not, it's not an unvaluable thing to be. But he obviously. I don't remember. I don't think he got hurt until fairly late on, maybe like second quarter, third quarter. So he really
No, it
wasn't
was.
doing too
I
much.
have my fantasy team. It was in the. It's pretty early in the first
Oh,
half.
was it early? Oh, okay, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I mean, 2 for 27 obviously is, if it's early, then that's not bad. I mean, and I think he'll be back with a concussion, right? So he'll
Yeah.
probably be back next week. I mean, the NFL doesn't care about concussions. On the other side of I'm just kidding, by the way. The other side of the aisle, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers, who Mitch Trubisky is absolutely horrible. He's everything we thought he was, and then some. 48 quarterback rating, if that does anything for you, it is still better than Burrow's, or QBR rather. But man, I mean, QBR doesn't mean anything, but it is just a nice metric to say like Mitch Trubisky was bad, and it's not anything less than we expected. Najee Harris was bad, not anything less than we expected behind that offensive line. That offense is going to be hard to watch this year, in my opinion. It's going to be hard to watch.
Yeah, and almost losing a game where when you win the turnover battle 5-0. That's
Oh yeah,
almost unheard
that's
of.
criminal.
That's
It's absolutely criminal.
Yeah,
Uh,
and it just it falls back on Matt Canada and that offense. And at
Absolutely.
the end of the day, you cannot start Mitch Trubisky and expect because they have
No.
one of probably the two or three best defense in the league. You have weapons like Deontay Johnson, George Pickens, Chase Claypool, the Najee Harris, Freiermuth. You have all of these guys,
Yeah.
and you're going to throw out Mitch Trubisky and just try to manage 8-9 wins just so Tom can say, "Hey, I'm over 500 again."
Yeah.
No, that just can't cut it. That can be, and I don't think I'm exaggerating. That can be a Super Bowl contending team with a good quarterback. I
Yeah.
don't think Kenny will be that guy, this year, but you have to at least let him get a chance and go out there. I mean, hell, everyone wanted to compare him last year with his big rise, meteoric rise, up the draft boards like Joe Burrow had. Like, let's just throw him out there and let's see what he can do. Let's see if he can get our playmakers the ball in space and get it downfield so they can make plays. Because
Yeah, I mean, I agree, and I don't think that they really let Mitch make too many throws that Pickett is incapable of making. I think, it just doesn't make sense really to draft a guy that highly and then start Mitch. I got a lot of respect for a guy like Mitch who was drafted so early, and he never should have been drafted that high. He never had any business going that high, and everybody knew it when he was drafted. To go into Chicago to make the playoffs as a quarterback in the NFL is probably an extremely difficult thing to do, even when your defense is insane.
they did it twice.
Yeah, I mean, so I got respect for Mitch because he is putrid at quarterback. He is horrible, but he's made the playoffs twice. He found himself a backup job with Josh Allen that led to him getting a starting job. So good for him, man. You're sticking around. You're doing your thing, but man, Jesus, you can't run Mitch Trubisky out there. It's 2022, it's current year. Mitch Trubisky is just not going to cut it. I think the Steelers have some concerns about their running game. Again, Najee Harris,
Yeah.
in my opinion, he's not ever really gonna be that much of a just a guy that's gonna gash defenses. In my opinion, he's never gonna be a really efficient runner. And I said, and again, I'm an Alabama fan, so watching him come out, and I'm usually pretty biased to Alabama guys, but watching Najee come out, I said I don't know that he's an NFL running back based off of his. He doesn't have a lot of burst. He's fairly agile, but not particularly quick. If that makes sense, like he can make people miss. He makes a decent cut, but it just does. It almost feels like it just happens really slow. And when you don't have the burst, because he's kind of like Derrick Henry without speed, you know what I mean? So it's like when you don't have that burst, you just kind of like get tackled at the line of scrimmage. So
Yeah.
Najee, I mean, I hope he picks it. I hope he picks it up. I know he's got an injury. He's nursing an ankle right now, and hopefully he gets better. But man, that offensive line was not good, and they weren't good last year for him either. So maybe it's not him, maybe it's the line. But there's a lot of things about Najee's game that I didn't think were going to translate. And
Yeah, I don't think a lot of it is too. He has some of that Le'Veon Bell, and he likes to be really patient.
yeah,
Wait for the hole open up. Well, if there's no hole open up, we can't just sit behind
Jesus,
the line
yeah.
and hit in the backfield.
There's absolutely no hole opening
So,
up within that line.
yeah,
You gotta make
at
something
all,
happen.
man.
Yeah. Well, Eagles Lions. I mean, this was an absolutely insane football game.
Yeah,
From Dan Campbell willing his team back in the fourth quarter to the Philadelphia Eagles having 5 rushing touchdowns by 5 different players. or four from four different players. Excuse me. Man, wait, they had five, right? Or did they get a defensive touchdown? Somebody score on defense? Oh yeah, they
Yeah,
did.
they
Yeah,
had the
Bradbury had the pick six. That's
yeah,
right.
the Bradley pick
Yeah.
six.
So I mean, man, uh, I am gonna be a crazy hater. Oh, I'm gonna be a hater. I don't want to do this. Let's start with the Lions before I turn into a crazy hater. I thought the Lions were fun. That's kind of like all you can say about them. I mean, Jared Goff had a stinky day, in my opinion. 21-37, 215, and it didn't look pretty for most of it. I mean, I think that you know he hit Amon Ra for a touchdown. He hit Chark for a touchdown. Chark had a mean drop at the beginning of the game too, so it was nice to see him kind of come back from that and actually like do something. 8 targets as well. Target share for DJ Chark is actually pretty solid. Maybe a DFS look later on down the road, potentially even season long if you're streaming flex or wide receiver. But DeAndre Swift, speaking of fantasy, I mean he had a day. He was one of those slate breakers on DFS, I know, and if you had him in season long, then you were probably really happy about it. 15 for 144 is absolutely crazy against an Eagles front seven that at least their front four is fairly good. Their linebackers are kind of like questionable at best.
Yeah,
But their front four is not bad.
yeah. So there was a lot of question about, obviously Jordan Davis. He can't play a lot of snaps. So
Oh,
we saw that in college.
yeah.
He can play, one, maybe 2 snaps. And he has to come off the field.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, when he was in the game, apparently the yards per carry were, I think it was 2.8, and then when he wasn't in the game, it was somewhere in the double digits. So I mean, that's the thing kind of to look for going forward is how will the Eagles manage, to limit the run game when Jordan Davis has to come off the field, where do they have to drop safety in the box, play some bare fronts. It's just kind of interesting to follow in the
Yeah,
rest
I
of the
mean,
season.
yeah, and I mean, again, you draft a guy that highly, and you draft him, for what you expect of him. When he gives you 2 plays of drive and that's it. It really does raise the question of did he go too early? Obviously, he was a combine freak and everybody loved him when he was in underwear. But now when you put the pads on and he's out there for 2 plays and then he has to come out, he's sucking wind after 2 snaps. It is questionable. I don't see Nakobe Dean. Did Nakobe Dean play? I don't. He's not on the stat sheet.
That's a good question.
I'm,
I didn't really notice him out there
I would be
either.
fairly surprised if he didn't play though, and maybe he's nursing an injury and I just don't know about it. But like Hassan Reddick played, I mean, not that Hassan Reddick's bad, but you'd expect Nakobe Dean to get some snaps on that team because their linebackers are not very good. And on the other side of the ball, we had the number 1 overall pick. Did he go 1? No, he went 2. That's right, Trayvon Walker.
Yeah. And he
Aiden
had
Hutchinson.
he was for PFF. He was ranked 120 out of 121 pass rushers this weekend. So obviously it's week 1, it's early, but
You take a slow
whenever you
pass
take
rusher with short arms. I mean, what
whenever
are
you
you really
take
going for?
a fourth, fifth year senior, that just had one meteoric rise
Yeah,
in his senior season, and he really didn't. He did it with a lot of bull rush type stuff,
yeah,
and you can bully college offensive linemen, but when you get
sure,
to the NFL, you have to have a array of moves, and he doesn't have that. He's not really a technician over there,
no,
rushing the passer. He's just trying to out muscle people, and I wasn't a fan of the pick, but I mean I guess we'll see going moving forward.
Now, granted, you Michigan State fan, by the way, so
That is
obviously,
true.
just a slight tinge of bias, but not. No,
But
I think your criticism is valid, and that's how I felt when he came out
yeah,
too. Was because
I
I
will say
watched.
though, I will defend myself and say I think David Ajabo will be an excellent pro. I think he has a array of moves. He can get to the passer in multiple different ways. He's not just speed rush and bull rush. He is a technician rushing the
Yeah,
passer, and he just started playing football. 5-6 years ago. So I think he will be an excellent pro.
yeah, and
Just want to defend myself just a little
sure,
bit.
absolutely, and I think Aiden Hutchinson will be a fine NFL player. They just have to find what works for him. And that happens a lot. Obviously the second overall pick, you really want a plug and play guy, but in my opinion, he's not. He was never going to be that because you have to find something that works for him and how you can get him to make an impact in the game. And again, second overall pick. Again, I understand it. You don't really second overall pick. You want a plug and play guy. You want a guy that you just say here, go play football. He's not that guy necessarily. I mean, he's gonna play hard. He's 25. I don't know. He's probably 23, but I mean, he feels 25 to me.
He is the epitome of a Dan Campbell player.
Yeah, man, he is, and he's short arms, and I remember that being a big thing about him. He,
Yeah.
man,
It's just the bottom line is you don't take Chase Winovich number 2 overall.
you don't. No, you don't. And again,
It's,
yeah,
you don't do it. You take a freak like Trayvon Walker who had an interception, a sack in his in his debut.
yeah,
Yeah, he lived up, and we'll talk about that
yeah,
later as
we will.
well. But he lived up to the hype. While whereas Aiden over there, he's got some work to do.
Yeah, and I mean when you see on the stat sheet that Isaiah Buggs Roll Tide had three tackles, two solo tackles and a pass deflection, and you see Aiden Hutchinson down here with one total tackle, no solos. It does raise eyebrows. I mean, I think it does raise eyebrows. Onto the Eagles, and we haven't really talked about the Eagles yet. Let's talk about them. Man, here's where I get to be a crazy hater. I don't think Jalen Hurts is a very good quarterback. I think he is a very very big threat with his legs. And again, like I said, Alabama fan, so I know him probably better than anybody, and I've spent more time watching him play football probably than anybody else. Uh, I really like Jalen the person. I really like Jalen the football player. I'm not sold on Jalen the quarterback because when you're playing Detroit, who is better than last year, and I think their corners have gotten better. I think their secondary has gotten better. I think they've developed a little bit over the offseason. But when you're 18 of 32, you have no passing touchdowns. Really, A.J. Brown, I'd love to see what his yak was because I feel like it was pretty outstanding. Uh, you know, it raises eyebrows. It raises questions about his longevity. Obviously, his longevity is I think intact because the Eagles traded picks for A.J. Brown. They really don't have any ammunition to move up. They're not going to be bad enough to get an early quarterback. So I think they're kind of in a weird purgatory place where, man, you're kind of, and I hate to say stuck with him because he didn't have a bad game and he ran 17 times for 90 yards, which is an insane stat line for a quarterback, obviously. But it really is concerning when your team is in a dogfight with the Detroit Lions week one when you got A.J. Brown for him. You got Devontae Smith, who had 0 catches on 4 targets that they just did not try to get him the ball. But, I think there's concern there for me.
Yeah, 100%. And you look at his completions. I would love to go see his average depth of target. I wish I had that in
Oh,
front of
man,
me,
yeah.
but
Yeah.
it was. I mean, a lot of I want to say Jay Brown's yards came. And credit to Sirianni. He's a great offensive mind. He will put Jalen in a outstanding situation.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But a lot of it's off play action, boots, RPOs, just easy completions, and let your playmakers go run after that. And so 18 of 32 for 243. It might have his performance might have been a little worse than that. He started the game 0 for 6. I
Oh,
want to
man.
say.
I think it was over. I don't remember if he
Yep.
completed one after over 5. I know he started over 5, so it was the worst that he'd ever started, or worst Eagle had ever started in the opening day, or some kind of crazy, stupid ass stat like that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yes.
he was it was an interesting game for him. I'm interested to see, and because of that 0 for 5 start, it really means that he was 18 for 27 after that, so 9 incompletions the rest of the game. It's not bad.
Yeah.
I think there's still just question marks there, and again, this is coming from somebody that's not an Eagles fan. It's coming from somebody that when Jalen Hurts was at Alabama, I did not want him starting for my team after I saw Tua. So it is it is coming from a place of a guy who has never been Jalen's biggest fan anyway as a passer. But I do think there's still question marks and concerns there. But hey, man, Philly, you got nothing left, so he's your guy. You got to back him. Sirianni, you got to turn around to your fans and celebrate when you beat the Lions by 3 in the last second. And that's the way we go, Philly. We're in there. At least your division is so terrible that you have a chance to win it every year at 9-8. Moving on, we're not going to talk about the Ravens and Jets. We'll say that the Jets probably
Just got
probably
down. I
they're
mean,
probably a better team than people would give them credit for, in my opinion. Because realistically, if you hold that Ravens team to 10 points in the first half, I think Robert Sala's got them going in the right direction defensively. But when you start Joe Flacco and you've got a guy like Mike White, who is not necessarily a superstar, but shit, he's not Joe Flacco. At the very least, Mike White maybe makes it an entertaining game to watch. Joe Flacco threw it 60 times.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to
I,
watch that.
I'm just how the game script. I'm very curious how he ended up throwing the ball 60 times. I get that they were
A close
down.
game
A
too,
lot of
like
yeah.
fairly
It's not like
close.
like they're down 21.
Yeah,
It's why in the
they
world is he?
scored.
And I would like to see how many dropbacks he had too. Just not play action, just standard
I would
dropbacks.
like
That
to
would.
see when they scored. Okay, so they scored with 1 minute left in the fourth. So it was
Oh,
24-3 for most of the game at least, or second half. Man, I mean, I think Robert Sala's got him moving in the right direction. I think Lamar. Oh, whoa, whoa. It's
yeah. I
okay.
mean, it's like it's just much of the same. I mean,
Yeah,
he turns down all of that money, but I,
they're gonna pay
I
him.
don't think he deems to be paid one of the highest paid quarterback, one of the two or three highest paid quarterbacks in the league. I don't think he's that guy. We've seen when he gets into the playoffs, yeah, he is usually great in the regular season,
Yeah,
but he gets into the playoffs, he plays teams that knows how to contain all their zone reads, the power reads, and they really force him to sit in the pocket,
they
and
force
make
him. They force him
passes.
to be a
And
pocket passer, man, and
yeah,
that's
and you go back and look at how many points scored, ever since he was the full time starter.
yeah.
I don't want to, discredit him for the San Diego game, his first year. That was
Sure,
he
no,
was thrown into the fire.
right.
Ever since that team employed that system with Greg Roman, 12 points against Tennessee, and then the next season. They beat Tennessee. They score what 20, I think, and then they go on the road to Buffalo, and he didn't record a touchdown, which it's how do you pay for somebody like that who teams are going to force you to pass, and if you can't really effectively pass the football, it's I can't pay you to be one of these top quarterbacks. You're not the Mahomes, the Josh Allens, even like the Deshaun Watsons.
Yeah.
It's
Well, you
I
can't
can't
pay
put
him,
you on that.
but Baltimore is going to. Eric DeCosta is going to pay him. And again, it could be one of those things where Baltimore is going to be really good for a really long time, and they're just never going to get over that hump because their quarterback is a little bit limited as a passer. And again, we're not necessarily crazy Lamar haters around here. I mean, we're not Lamar's a running back people unless it's a joke,
No, not at
obviously.
all.
But
Yeah.
I agree,
No,
and
I was.
we've seen those
I remember.
limitations all his whole career though of him as a
Yeah,
passer.
I mean, I was a really big Lamar fan going into the NFL. I was super excited him getting taken at 32. I thought he would prove everyone wrong. His passing improved so much when he was in college, and then his MVP season he was so good. He was really efficient. He hit a bunch of passes, even a couple deep balls here and there.
Yeah.
But then the regression the next season, injury last season, and kind of start this season. It doesn't look like it's trending in that MVP direction, which is kind of sad to me because I thought that's where his career was going to go. But
Right, and I think there are a few interesting tidbits from this game, and I do remember I did see the touchdown he threw to Devin Duvernay, which I think was a good throw, if I remember correctly. It was on the
yeah, it
money,
was a deep post,
and
which
he
he,
had
he
he
put
had
on the money.
Rashad Bateman got a long touchdown that I think he was wide open for, so you really can't say
Yeah,
that was a busted coverage. But if you look at two big takeaways in my opinion for this game, at least looking at the box score. And no, I'm not a box score merchant, but if I was, then this is what I would talk about.
but it's work.
Lamar Lamar running Lamar running the ball 6 times is interesting. I think that's probably Harbaugh doing a good job of trying to keep him fresh and not really kill yourself against the Jets when there's bigger fish to fry later on. You're probably counting the Jets game as a win. You just don't want to really overdo it. And maybe that's wrong because again I didn't really watch this game, so I can admit that maybe Robert Saleh did a bang up job of just keeping Lamar in the pocket and forcing him to throw it. But 6 carries is
Yeah.
interesting, and on the flip side of that, on the other side, I think Brees Hall and Michael Carter, both of those guys are really interesting to me because Michael Carter had 10 carries, but he also had 9 targets. Brees Hall had 6 carries, but he also had 10 targets. So it seems like the Jets, at least with Joe Flacco, are going to be one of those teams that really incorporates running backs in the passing game when they're losing. And I would wager to guess that if Joe Flacco's their quarterback, they're going to be losing quite a bit. Um, this was a
I
really
think
fun
you're
game. Uh, Washington Jacksonville was a really fun game. I saw good bits and pieces from this game. I cannot tell you that I watched every single snap because obviously the Dolphins game was on. That was my main focus, and I had other games on around me where I could peripherally see what was happening. But Washington Jacksonville. it was fun. It was a fun game. I don't think Carson Wentz silenced any haters here, and I don't think Trevor Lawrence did much to convince people that he is the second coming of Jesus Christ. But an interesting, entertaining game nonetheless. James Robinson put my Travis Etienne stock in the toilet and flushed it because he is apparently just as good as he ever has been, even though Etienne on the ground apparently did well. Antonio Gibson, rumors of his demise, maybe a bit premature. 14 carries, 7 catches, 8 targets. Curtis Samuel with 11 targets. Just a weird football game. But I think you touched on it. Cam Sims got a target. Look at that. Nice. I think you touched on it earlier. The Trayvon Walker had a really, really good game. Number 1 overall pick. And again, I don't really care about draft picks and like following their like every move. Like, oh, the number 1 pick. What did he do this week? Like, it doesn't really matter. But he was a story, and he did have a good day. So again, Trayvon Walker. I mean, he's got the intangibles. He's got the athleticism. It's really just can he put it together consistently on a football field, and I think he did, at least this week against Washington.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the interception he made was, I mean, that athleticism was, put on display there.
Yep.
He gets a pass defended, he gets tapped for a loss. He is, at least, obviously in week 1, there are glimpses of, why they took him number 1 and why he shot up the boards so quickly.
Yeah.
That was very encouraging to see. Another thing I want to talk about is kind of the rise of Jahan Dotson. I mean, my goodness, contested catch God, I guess. And I would like for them to get him, more targets, get the ball in his hands. 11 targets for Curtis Samuel. That's cool. I get it. He's kind of like your gadget, speedster a little bit. You want to get the ball in his hands, but I think Dotson can really gain some traction as a potential, maybe even flex play in season long fantasy if they can get him some more targets, because he is the real deal, and I think he put that on display when they put the ball in his direction. He's really good.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think if he's not owned in your league, it's probably a good safe stash. I think that some other fantasy tidbits, and it's not really a whole lot to talk about with this game. It was an entertaining game. It was close, but it was really two teams that aren't all that great. I like Washington. I really do. I think that they're going to be competitive this year with teams. But I don't hate Jacksonville. I don't think they're quite to the level that they're ready to actually play with the big boys yet. But they both put out an entertaining game. We'll say that. But fantasy wise, I think Antonio Gibson is good trade bait, but I also think he's good in terms of trading for him as well. I think that if you could trade for Antonio Gibson, I like his projection, at least until Brian Robinson comes back into the fold, and who even knows when that's going to be. They're saying week 5, but it's like how ready is he really going to be? Terry McLaurin kind of bailed people out with a 59-yard catch. Or 49-yard catch rather, because he was having a tough go. Like you said, Curtis Samuel, gadget guy, probably maybe worth a pickup and stash just in case they keep using him that way. And Christian Kirk, who I drafted in the 5th or 6th round of our league, had a decent game. I think he had an opportunity for a touchdown at one point. Etienne also dropped a touchdown. Thanks, man. And Evan Ingram, I like. Yeah, jeez. Evan Ingram, I like as well. I think they're going to keep utilizing him, and I think, if you're one of the people like me who didn't draft a tight end until the last pick, he's definitely worth a pickup, and maybe just to kind of see streaming every week how he does. And Zay Jones, I would not. I wouldn't buy into the hype of Zay Jones. 9 targets is a lot. 6 catches is good. He had 12.5 fantasy points, and nobody owned him. Nobody in DraftKings played him. I just, I think it's kind of an anomaly. He's been in the league for so long, and he's never done anything, so I would be shocked if he continued that. Man, there's a lot of games this week. We've been talking for like a whole hour. It's fine. Browns Panthers.
We do it for the love of the game.
We do, man. We do. It's going to be an hour and 30 minutes, and we will grind through it. Speaking of grinding through it, man, are we even going to talk about this game?
The Browns won. This was a 60-minute grind.
Panthers, man. Panthers are. I'm not a Baker truther, and I'm really not a Baker believer either. but I think he gets a little bit of unwarranted criticism for things that were not necessarily under his control. I mean, you put him in really bad situations with bad coaches. You give him last year with Stefanski. He gets hurt. He's hurt all year. It seems a bit unfair to just say, "Oh, Baker's trash." He's not great.
Right.
He's not very mobile. He's not a strong arm quarterback. He doesn't really have a lot of pocket presence. He is the epitome of an average quarterback, and it kind of showed against Cleveland. I mean, Cleveland's defense isn't bad. They're actually quite good. But I thought the Panthers were going to be very competitive in this game. I think I may have edged the Panthers to win it, and they weren't really competitive until the fourth quarter. I don't know what the Panthers' outlook is this season. I don't really know. I think Baker's a rental. They haven't paid him yet, right? So maybe he improves. But my biggest takeaway from this game is if you are Baker Mayfield and you've got a young man named Christian McCaffrey on your field who is there to help you, to give you that security blanket, that comfort of, hey, just throw the ball to me and I'll get you 10 yards, and you only throw to him 4 times, then either Cleveland did a masterful job of taking him away from you, or you were not looking in the right place on the field. Instead, you were looking for Robbie Anderson, who had 8 targets, who went crazy, who was a guy that I was definitely all over in our season-long draft and got sniped. Didn't get him, but I wanted him. The Panthers' offense, that's going to be with McCaffrey. I know people took him 1 or 2. If you took him 1 or 2, then God bless you. You're in for a ride with Baker, I'm assuming. Cleveland, you're also in for a ride because Jacoby Brissett is hot ass. He is terrible. You witnessed it. You saw it. 18 for 34, 140 yards. He is terrible. And Nick Chubb is great.
Yeah. Stefanski. I mean, he continually proves himself as one of these top echelon coaches in the league.
Yeah.
How in the world did he pull this shit out of his ass this week?
I don't know, man. I don't know.
I mean, the
Anytime you
designs that
win
he
with
comes
Jacoby
up with.
Brissett, any game
Yeah,
you win with Jacoby Brissett is a masterclass, right? It is a coaching
basketball. I mean,
masterclass.
yeah,
Yeah.
the designs that he has to get his playmakers in space, like Kareem Hunt in the receiving game, and the Chubb runs, even getting Donovan Peoples-Jones involved, and it's just
And
incredible.
I think you made the call on DPJ saying that he had a potential to kind of have a decent season with no other real threats on the team. Surprised Anthony Schwartz got some looks at. He was a potential cut candidate at the end of camp, even being drafted, and they were talking about he is terrible, but he got a couple targets, and Mari Cooper got 6, but I mean, it is, well, I would say it's a different world going from Dak to Jacoby, but we'll touch on that. I don't really know how different that world is, but Nick Chubb still doing Nick Chubb things. Kareem Hunt doing Kareem Hunt things, catching out of the backfield, touchdowns. Nick Chubb not scoring touchdowns, just getting yards. It's basically what you'd expect. Defensively, I don't know that there's any real things to talk about. Myles Garrett had 2 sacks. I mean, some half sacks. Ronnie Harrison roll tide. Brian Burns 8 tackles. Jesus, that's something. No quarterback hits though. It's probably not great for your best pass rusher on your team. It's Grant Delpit got a pick. Good for him. Delpit, that's nice. But yeah, this game was a stinker, and nobody really watched it unless you're a Browns or Panthers fan, or me, because I had it on my other monitor, but I barely looked at it. Did we even talk about this game? We'll very briefly talk about this. The Colts played the Texans, and Jesus Christ, Frank Reich. It's still Frank Reich, isn't it? He had an absolute howler. He had a stinker. Somehow they managed to fight all the way back in the fourth quarter and tie the game, and just pissed about in overtime. Like, what in the hell were you thinking about?
We didn't really watch too much of this, but bits and pieces that we've seen, I mean, the Colts offense was absolutely anemic. It was, Matt Ryan threw about 50 times. They handed
the fourth quarter.
When they got down, there was no passing game before then. It's much the same as really last season. It's hand to Jonathan Taylor. Hopefully breaks one. If he doesn't, well, we're kind of stuck in mud. Luckily in the fourth quarter, they get Michael Pittman going. They get the pass game on a little bit. What I would like to see is they kind of pump the brakes on Alec Pierce. I thought the draft pick was really early for him. There's some athletic ability there, but he's not, the polished receiver that they some guys that they let go past them, I should say, in the draft. I mean, you saw him, drop a wide open touchdown. He doesn't really separate well. It just kind of pump the brakes on him and let some other guys really just get more snaps.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. And I didn't know a whole lot about Alec Pierce coming out in the draft, and when they took him, it was, and I knew him by the time they took him, but before just before the draft, even the pre-draft process, he wasn't a guy that really stuck out in any meaningful way. If you're a DFS guy, congratulations on your Michael Pittman and Jonathan Taylor plays, you sick freaks, because you got super lucky in the fourth quarter. They finally decided to play football. You sick freaks, and they smashed for you. Congrats, because I faded both of them. And I made the right call until the fourth quarter when they finally started playing football. And Michael Pittman got 13 targets. Jonathan Taylor had probably a career high 7 targets. He never gets the ball thrown to him. It felt like last year, but Nyheim Hines 6 targets out of the backfield, 3 carries. So obviously, the whole Nyheim Hines is going to have a role in this offense thing is partially true, but not really. And then on the other side, Dameon Pierce, congratulations, you played yourself. If you drafted him anywhere higher than like the 10th round, you again, sick freak, thinking that he was going to get any kind of meaningful touches in this offense. He's not. 11 carries, 33 yards is abysmal. Rex Burkhead's even worse. Davis Mills again proving that he is a capable quarterback in the NFL. If not unspectacular, he's steady. He's going to keep you in football games if you can. If you help him, he helps you. Brandon Cooks, crazy game. Not crazy game, but a good game. Brandon Cooks is a 1,000-yard receiver, 100-catch receiver every year. It just feels like, and very consistent player, and good for him.
One of the more underrated careers, I might add,
yeah,
as well.
absolutely. Especially because of all the teams he's bounced around to as well. Like he's really gone through the ringer, man, and I'm happy for him. And there was a time where he was not able to make it through a whole season. So now seeing him kind of get this Mr. Consistency thing about him is really interesting, especially for a team that's so bad. But he really is thriving, and even if Houston's not, he is. OJ Howard, again, I have a lot of biases, and I will say that if you are in a fantasy league and you are streaming tight ends, I would not touch OJ Howard. There's no planet that I would touch him. He had 2 targets, and he just got lucky enough that both of them ended up being touchdowns. He is not gonna fucking bang and get you 22. He's not. It was a lucky day for him. I'm happy to see him on an offense where he actually gets to run a route and not just block and be the left tackle. But man, it's nice to see him out there. But please don't go pick him up. That's not it. Nobody on this Texans offense deserves to be rostered except for Brandon Cooks and maybe Davis Mills. Maybe. That's it. Don't touch this team. Matt Ryan fumbled 4 times, by the way. So
probably indicative of the offensive line, the quote unquote best offensive line in football.
He fumbled 4 times.
I don't want to really get into it, but that contract they gave Quentin Nelson, I mean, good lord, man, we're in 2022 paying a guard that much money.
Guard an immense amount of money. We're finally to the 4:00 games, and let's start with the. Do we start with this one? Oh man, no. I think we have to.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think we have to, because this is
probably the best finish of the day, really.
Yeah, man, it was an interesting game. I have a lot to say about coaches in this game. I got a lot to say about coaches.
Yeah.
I think that Mike Vrabel continues to prove that mediocrity is success in the NFL. If you can be a mediocre coach, if you can win 8, 9, 10 games every year and get trounced out of the playoffs unless you get a super lucky win against a better team than you, then you are going to be a coach in this league forever. And Mike Vrabel is, in my honest opinion, stealing a living. He and everybody on his staff, they are stealing a living, because that offense has been the same since he's been there. Get in the power eye, wad the whole team up into a bunch, and just run at the pile until Derrick Henry bails you out by breaking a tackle, stiff-arming somebody, or cutting outside and outrunning people. It is baffling to me, and I think that we'll look back on this era of Titans football one day and realize just how wasted it was, because they've had talented rosters on this in this organization, and to see Derrick have to get behind a fullback every play and run 21 times into a big wad of bodies is detrimental to my health as an Alabama fan, as a football fan in 2022. It is the antithesis of what football should be. It is horrendous football. Ryan Tannehill threw it 33 times. He was fine. He was Ryan Tannehill.
He was good. I mean,
He
if you
was,
look at the
yeah.
PFF grades, he was graded out as one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the league, or
Yeah.
in the league this week. And he hit some big time throws,
He
to
did.
get
He
him
did.
even in field goal range. But like you said, dude, it's 2022. We have to get out of the I formation. And I mean, it's not 1970 anymore. Todd Downing is absolutely stealing money. There's
Oh
no
yeah.
way he should be an offensive coordinator. He
No.
should go back in
No.
time and try to find a time machine, and maybe he can go
1960.
coach for Vince Lombardi, and he can
There
be
you
a
go.
offensive coordinator and a Super Bowl champion
Oh,
there, because
wow.
there is no place for him in modern football, because
No.
it's just ridiculous.
It is. It's
And
embarrassing to watch. It really is embarrassing to watch because you see young innovative coaches all the time in high school and college, and you see what they do, and you see how they behave and the things that they do on offense that separate them from everybody else. And I will defend myself here as well, because I did say I'm a Dolphins fan. Mike McDaniel loves himself a fullback. We ran motion 75% of our plays on Sunday. That is an immense amount of motion. That is an immense amount of pre-ball movement to help your quarterback to determine what's going on. Our running game is horrendous, but if we had Derrick Henry, I guarantee you we would find ways to get him the football that are creative and that put him in the right position to succeed. Whereas Tennessee says, here's the ball, go do something with it. And not, here's the ball,
yeah,
let's see how we can get you going. You know what I mean? It's here's the ball, please break a tackle, please stiff arm somebody, please outrun the corner. It really is hard to watch Tennessee,
yeah,
man,
it
and I
definitely
know that
is.
Titans fans, if they hear this, they're probably not going to like it, but or maybe they will. Hopefully they will. If you have a brain, you probably do. But I mean,
Yeah.
it is just
It's just
boring
it's
to
got to be
watch them play
it's got to
football.
be sad, because your window has, I think, I don't want
It's
to do the
shut.
whole week.
No, it's slammed
Yeah,
shut.
I don't. I
It
was
is.
gonna say I don't want to do the whole week one overreaction, but your window has shut, man. I
It's
mean,
shut.
how do you
It's
trade
done.
away AJ? How do teams not prioritize
No,
wide
I don't know.
receivers in 2022?
I don't know.
And we're going to talk about another team, the Sunday night game that
Yeah.
uh
Oh man, we've already been
we
talking for an hour. We're this might be an hour and 40 minutes because we've got some other
yeah
stuff to get into. But man, I mean, yeah, and again, Treylon Burks, I thought he had a good game. I thought that
yeah
people really said that during camp he was terrible, which I didn't believe. Because at the end of the day, he's playing football, man. He played football at Arkansas. He was fantastic for Arkansas. It's the same game that he's playing. You still can't touch receivers. You still can't knock them off their routes. You still can't really do anything to them. So he's gonna be a force, and it shouldn't have taken trading away AJ Brown to bring in another weapon. And it just feels like Robert Woods had two targets, man. Robert Woods, okay. I did not know
ridiculous.
that. That's terrible. Yeah, this team is a dumpster fire. Their window's slammed shut. Derrick Henry's almost 30. Ryan Tannehill's over. He's past it. And I mean, he's still a good quarterback, but like his window of opportunity in terms of being like a league winning quarterback or a Super Bowl winning quarterback, I don't even know if he ever had that window, but if he did, it's closing quickly because he's got somebody chasing him down behind him that is gonna die in this offense. He's going to perish playing in this offense. I did not know Derek fumbled. I'm glad he recovered it. If we talk about, I did remember him fumbling actually. If we talk about New York, um,
Yeah,
Brian Dable did some interesting things with Daniel Jones, which I liked. Um, I thought that their offensive scheme was good. I thought that getting Saquon the ball a lot was probably a good idea. Saquon is
mhm.
still a premier player in this league when he is healthy, when he's full go. How long will he be healthy? We don't know. He could crash and burn in week 4 for all we know. But right now, while he's good to go, you feed him. Another guy you should probably feed is Kadarius Toney, but Brian Dabo did not get that memo. So instead, they fed Richie James 6 targets.
Yeah, yeah. I just, we love, a lot of things that David did on
Yeah,
Sunday. He's
yeah,
an outstanding offensive mind,
yep.
and honestly, you know, a lot of these offensive minds that go into the head coaching, sometimes, they don't really manage games well. He managed the hell out of that
I thought so
game.
too. Yep.
Yeah, he outcoached Vrabel up and
Oh,
down. I mean,
just circles around him.
it was outstanding to watch, and like he knows that Daniel Jones, won't be their long term, quarterback. So he kind of weaseled away around just to, get him some easy passes.
Yep.
Make sure he doesn't really, he had one turnover, but for the most part, make sure he doesn't turn the ball over. Complete passes, move the chains, give us a chance at the end of the game. And obviously, that's what happened. Actually, he had two turnovers. He
He
also
did. Yeah, he
fumbled.
fumbled as well. he
So I mean, you can try to do all you can, but he's
yeah,
at the end of the day, he's still Daniel Jones. But
yeah.
they come away with the win. Yeah,
Talent wins out, man, and lack of talent also wins out. You see it time
yeah,
and time again. I mean, and again, Daniel Jones, 17 for 21. You just keep him efficient. You keep him throwing passes that he's comfortable with. Don't make him do too much. And that all that is really really nice to say, and it's really easy when Saquon is carrying the team on his back. But I do uh, worry for Dable in terms of when Saquon is unable to do what he did on Sunday.
yeah,
What is going to happen? Because if you are still in that college mentality where Kadarius Toney's in the doghouse because he said something you didn't like, or he doesn't work hard enough, or doesn't show up to meetings on time, your wide receiver room is so terrible.
yeah,
I'm sorry. You either cut the guy because you don't like him, or you play him, and you just get over your differences. You know what I mean? Because Jesus Christ, you have the most talented
yeah.
receiver on your roster, and he doesn't even touch the ball until the fourth quarter. Like when it
Exactly,
doesn't
and
make
it wasn't
sense.
even in the pass game. They're
No, it
just
was
giving them the ball on end
concussions.
arounds. Like, dude, he is an excellent route runner, a
Yeah.
dynamic player, a true game changer.
Yep.
And to not, to have all this off the field stuff, it's he's a grown man. We can't be disciplining him by just not playing him. That's not doing anything. It's
Find a
not
way
going
to
to teach
move
him to learn.
on. No, I agree. I agree.
Exactly.
I just think and again, I'm not saying let him just run wild and do whatever he wants because he's a good football player, but I'm not saying to not do that. So, Dable,
Hmm.
you pull your head out of your ass a little bit on the Tony thing, right? Not only because I drafted him in season long, just because if you want to be successful, right? No, but but if you want to be successful, I mean, Richie James getting the most targets on your team aside from Saquon is not going to work. I know you threw it 21 times. That's fine, but to me, Kadarius Toney has to be part of your offense. If he's not, then you're really you're doing something that is detrimental to your team. And if you want to lose games, that's fine. But I don't think they do because they went for the win. I don't know. Man, from one terrible wide receiver room to another. We go to Green Bay, um, and we talked about. You kind of alluded to Dallas trading away their best receiver and not having any depth in their receiver room after that. Pot meat kettle because Green Bay did the same exact thing. Aaron Rodgers was horrendous, and people are going to give him a bailout. They're going to say, "Oh, he's the goat. Oh, Aaron Rodgers is a back-to-back MVP. You can't say he had a bad game. That offensive line was bad." I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit how his offensive line was. That is Aaron Rodgers. He is a two-time MVP, and he was dog. He was
And I want to say,
terrible.
out of the 4 sacks that he actually took, I want to say 3 of them he took those.
He
He held on
held
to the
on to the
ball and took those
ball.
sacks.
Yes,
Yes, a
dude.
lot of that was on him.
Oh man, I thought he
And
probably
obviously,
carried the whole game.
yeah, obviously you have the drop, the Christian Watson
Yeah,
touchdown drop early in the game,
absolutely, and that
and
changes
that's fine.
changes the dynamic of the game at the beginning too. And I will give him that because you hit that pass and things may be different, but man,
Right.
it was a tough day to be A Rod, and he was really not his best. Um,
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins, Justin Jefferson, Justin Jefferson was a man who was at his
Just
best.
yeah. It's
What a player! What a
so
player!
impressed with
Yeah.
what Kevin O'Connell did. I mean,
Oh yeah.
he's man, I don't have the number in front of me, but lined up inside the numbers, dude. He was lined up. I want to say 70% of the passing plays he was lined up inside the numbers, and
Yeah.
obviously that's taking the McVay condensed sets and really making it hard to bracket him, follow a guy over him because it's hard to press that. It's he
Well,
lines up off the
it
ball.
it was
He's
three separate times that he caught what looked like just a straight like corner route or double move, and he was
Mhm.
naked. There was
Just
no
wide
one
open.
within 10 yards of him.
Yeah, it
And
was so
that's all
refreshing.
scheme, man. That's all
Yeah.
scheme. And Justin Jefferson, obviously, fantastic player, but to be able to scheme a player like that open is special,
Mhm.
special thing. really.
Right, and we heard, in the offseason that he was going to be in that Cooper Cup role where he
Yeah.
moves him around
Yep.
every which way. I mean, there were two snaps where we saw Preston Smith, out there in the flat against him, and again, that's all on O'Connell.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
it was just refreshing watching the Vikings not play Mike Zimmer football. They throw the ball 32 times, run 28 in a game that they were dominating all of the way.
There was
In
never any
previous
doubt that they
years,
were going to win that
yeah, in
game.
previous years, you see them get up, and Kirk Cousins is throwing the ball 22 times to 40 runs.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
was just it was really refreshing. And I thought Kirk Cousins looked great. I mean,
Yeah, I
he
thought so
hit
too.
balls. He was really accurate. It looked like a little bit of a different quarterback than we've seen. And I think that's this team really. If it wasn't such for the kind of bad secondary play, I think moving forward, you can get away with it this week because look at the
Oh,
receiving room that Green Bay ran out
yeah.
there. I mean, hell, AJ Dillon, he led the team in
Yeah,
targets. I
he
mean,
had 6 targets. Yeah.
that's ridiculous.
And we'll touch on that too.
Yeah.
I'll say this about Minnesota. What I think makes them kind of a scary team moving forward is when you're limiting Dalvin Cooks, not limiting his touches, but when you're able to move the ball without having to rely on giving him the ball 30 times a game, it really just opens a lot up for him. And not only that, but I feel like it keeps him healthy because he's had a lot of issues with these little nagging injuries throughout his career in general. But a lot of the times I feel like it's almost from overuse where he is
Mhm.
just asked to be a bell cow. And Dalvin is a fantastic player, great running back. Bell cow is not something that I would call him because he has fumble issues or he has in the past, and he is a bit injury prone. But giving him 23 touches a game, 23 to 25 and not 30 plus, I think is going to do wonders down the stretch for keeping him fresh and keeping him healthy. I will say it hurt me in two different ways today, or Sunday rather. Irv Smith Jr. It hurt me in multiple ways because he was my streaming tight end of choice this week. That was a mistake. Um, he was the tight end that I drafted in the last round of our season long fantasy. He was my DFS tight end this week over Hayden Hurst because all I heard all offseason was how Minnesota was going to throw the ball more, they were going to move the ball around a lot. 2 targets, 0 catches. He had less catches than CJ Ham. So Irv will probably be dropped and replaced by Hayden Hurst if I have my way, which, based off the results from week 1, I will have the first waiver spot again. Green
There you
Bay.
go.
Green Bay's running back situation is hilarious to me, and I do want to touch on that really quick before I move on. Now, in underdog fantasy, I did have I hit 4 of my props, and the last one I needed was an Aaron Jones anytime touchdown. Now, that is going to slightly kind of tweak my opinion just a little because I'm still hurt. I'm still wounded. Aaron Jones is a better running back than AJ Dillon, and I don't think there's any possible way that you could dispute that fact. Aaron Jones is, when being used properly, probably a top 5 to top 10 running back in this league, and I don't really think it's much of an argument. AJ Dillon is a fat second round bald running back. And he got 6 targets and he got 5 catches. And he got 46 yards, and he actually looked okay today or Sunday. But I don't understand how you have a dynamic player like Aaron Jones and you give him, what did he have? 8 touches in a game where you were just getting your doors blown off. For what felt like the whole game. 8 touches for your what I would consider your best player on offense aside from Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I mean, he's a absolutely dynamic player. 5 carries is absolutely criminal.
Criminal, 10 yards a carry.
Yeah,
Oh
it's
man,
just criminal.
yeah,
I mean, but I mean, it goes back to these teams drafting these running backs, top 2 rounds and feeling like, oh, we have to throw them out there, we have to play them, and it's bad. It's really bad
yeah, it
because
is.
obviously AJ Dillon is not the dynamic player Aaron Jones
For
is. If
sure,
you give him the ball at the goal line, that makes sense.
sure.
That's your bell cow. He's going to fall forward. He's going to
Short
run.
yardage, 3rd and 1, fourth
Yeah,
and one. Sure, yeah,
exactly. But you have to give Aaron Jones a ball, in early downs, in the not only just in the run game, but in the pass game, the
getting
screen
him
game,
involved. Yeah,
quick game.
I agree.
And line him up in the slot. Like give him the ball and let him go make plays. It's
And
just
I don't have the numbers in front of me. I know he lined up in the slot quite a bit. I think it was upwards of maybe 10, 15, 20 times in the slot that I saw him. And maybe
okay.
I'm wrong, but he lined up in the slot a good bit, but he was not targeted. And so
Yeah.
so that's a concern. Looking forward for Green Bay, I don't think their life is going to get a lot easier. I do think Aaron Rodgers will eventually get some chemistry and some camaraderie with these receivers. I do think that they will bounce back. I think Christian Watson showed flashes of being a decent football player, and I think he showed flashes of maybe somebody that Aaron can go to and can possibly trust in the future, even though he did drop a big touchdown. Romeo Doubs, obviously, I thought he was fine. He kind of got involved a little bit later on in the game. Robert Tunyon, I think if you're streaming tight ends like I am, he's probably worth a look. Because he can only get more involved because they don't really have any pass catchers that are capable of moving any type of needle in that offense. So there's a lot of question marks around the Packers. And if I remember right, man, their schedule, they play the Bears, which, that's not even a freebie, to be fair. But Buccaneers, that's a loss. Patriots, that's a war. Giants, that's probably a win, but Jets probably win too. Commanders, I think they may win that game. Bills is probably a loss. They've got some games in here that are really questionable to me, and this one you can pencil in for a loss as well because they're not beating us if they look like that. So we want to move to the Chiefs. Chiefs Cardinals, and we don't have to spend a ton of time on this one either because this was a blowout. The Chiefs just ran them out of the stadium, and I know you're a big Pat Mahomes guy, so I'll let you take a start.
Yeah, I'm just really impressed with how Kansas City for a very long time is obviously this. They kind of get this like this backyard football vibe to them. And it started in the preseason. It's the rumor was they were going to be lined up a lot more under center, some fullbacks. Because teams obviously last year they played a bunch of 2 high safeties. They didn't let them, create a little bunch of big plays. Obviously that was with Tyreek on the field, but as much as the same from the Cardinals. They didn't want them to. They still have Miko Hardman, a burner out there. They didn't want him to get over top. So there's a lot of 2 high safeties, but Kansas City combats that with a lot of the quick game underneath, a lot of the intermediate balls, in the middle of the field, the play action out of under center. They got the running game going a little bit. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he looked, pretty fresh.
Yeah.
So I thought it was a clinic from the enemy and Andy Reid. And going forward, I expect much of the same. They're my Super Bowl pick, to win it all. I have them against the New Orleans Saints. I think the NFC is an absolute crapshoot. I think anybody can come out of there, and I just
if
think
Jameis makes a Super Bowl, that would be.
You know how good that would be for ratings?
That would be something, man. Just to see Jameis in the Super Bowl.
Dude, that might I would kill just to have him go through the interview process to the Super Bowl.
When you think about the NFC and you think about the teams that are really capable of competing over there, right now, I don't think Arizona's capable of competing in the NFC. I think that their team is kind of in a bit of a shambolic state as well. We'll touch on that, but the Rams. The Rams will probably find their identity and they'll probably be okay. Yeah. And they played a really good Buffalo team, and maybe it's an overreaction to say that they're going to struggle this year. But if Matthew Stafford plays anything similar to what he played against Buffalo, it is going to be a tough year for them. At least, not a tough year in terms of wins and losses, but just kind of scratching and clawing for wins and same with Tampa. I wasn't thoroughly impressed with the way that Tampa Bay played and the style of play, and we'll touch on that later. But again, like you said, I thought Mahomes obviously was fantastic. I thought, and I'm less of a Mahomie than you. I like Mahomes. I think he's a good quarterback.
I thought we left that term in 2018.
We did not. We're carrying it over. He's cool, man. He's a good player. I think it's just because everybody hypes him up so much that I just kind of get bored of him. I think and obviously it's easy to do that, but he's fantastic.
I think that's the perfect kind of word for him.
It is
kind of get bored. How great he is. It's just okay, well another day at the office.
Yeah, am I gonna watch him fucking throw a sidearm pass to Travis Kelce for 50 yards, or am I gonna go watch somebody else? Am I gonna watch Daniel Jones rip one to Richie James? You know what I mean? I'd rather I'd rather watch Daniel Jones rip it.
You are a sick human being.
I guess so. But no, man. Obviously Mahomes is great. Obviously Chiefs are great. They're going to be in contention every year that Mahomes is there. And that's going to be for a long time unless that defense just falls apart. Which again, on Sunday looked solid. I thought Clyde
I would like.
Edwards-Helaire. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would say I would like to point out more coaching malpractice. I mean, we've kind of been doing to start the show, and there will be a game later. Well, a couple games that we'll also talk about that. But I mean, why in the world did the Arizona Cardinals think, who with that brain trust on the defensive side, think it's okay to line up Isaiah Simmons as a slot cornerback, really against anybody in this league? But he's out there
uh,
guarding Juju,
yeah,
Travis Kelsey, and he's getting fried. And he's getting a lot of hate for it. But
yeah.
why on earth are you using him like this? When he was at Clemson, he's middle of the field safety. They're putting him in the robber role. They're blitzing him. They're using him in a
Play
bunch
him
of
as a
different
safety.
ways.
Play him as an off-ball linebacker. I mean, you can do so much
Yeah,
with him, but man,
yeah.
and again, he
It's
was
like
one of my favorite prospects coming out because he's a fun guy to watch. He had a lot of potential, a lot of
he is a freak.
versatility. Yeah, I mean he's got a lot of versatility too. It's hard to watch when teams
Yeah,
when it's not the
just
player and it's the team, that you can just feel that
mhm.
they're just not. And that was kind of a similar thing with the Dolphins and Minka Fitzpatrick, who we really didn't talk about, but Minka Fitzpatrick had an incredible game on Sunday
Yeah.
against the Bengals. And but again, it's just coaching malpractice. And Brian Flores, who is suing the NFL because he got fired, he ruined Minka Fitzpatrick. He ruined his like first 2 years of his career because he was like, I want you to play corner. No, I want you to play safety. No, I want you to play star. I want you to play it's like stop moving me around, dude. Like put me in a position, let me play. You're trying to teach me this new defense, and you're trying to teach me 9 million positions. Like, yeah, I could play all these positions for Saban because I've been under him for 4 years. Like, I know what he wants, or three. Like, I know what he wants me to do. I know the defense. But Flores trying to throw him everywhere is just kind of a nightmare for him. And again, it's just taking good players and kind of forcing them into a role that you want for them, which isn't really necessarily their best role. It just doesn't really lead to a lot of results, or at least
Yeah.
positive ones at least. But Clyde Edwards-Helaire, you touched on him. I mean, yeah, he was really fresh. He's been on the bench for 2 years. So he's definitely
Yeah.
fresh. He's ready to go. He's had his 2 years in the offense to learn the scheme. So he's ready to catch 4 passes a game and touch the ball about 10 times. Isaiah Pacheco, obviously, I thought in garbage time looked really good. I don't think he's ever really. I don't think he's necessarily going to take touches away from CEH, but I mean he looks solid. Maybe next man up when Hilaire's 5th year or 4th year runs out, because I don't see why they would re-sign him. uh, but I mean,
You you
I
wouldn't
think Hilaire's
wouldn't want to
fine.
resign your first round running back draft pick.
I'm not that one. No.
Personally,
Uh,
I would pay him the boatload.
yeah,
Sarcasm here.
yeah. You and Tennessee and the
And
Cowboys, and you guys can all just go, and
and
Green Bay can pay Aaron Jones, and you guys can all just go have a good time.
Gettleman.
Oh boy, yeah, man, yeah. There's Oh wow, yeah, and again to you freaks out there who played the Mahomes Kelsey Juju stack, even though it's super chalk, you guys are freaks, you sick freaks. That's a great play, obviously in DFS. Holmes Kelsey Juju was, I believe, was one of the tournament lineups that I built, and I think I got away from it for whatever reason. Just overthinking, of course, probably, but obviously stack the Chiefs any chance you get, especially when they're cheap, and they're not going to be cheap for very long. On the flip side of this game, Arizona they're in a position where they just paid a very short, very mediocre quarterback quite a lot of money.
Heisman thief.
Heisman thief, yes, absolutely. Thief just stole the Heisman away in the night. Played 400 more snaps than Tua and had very very similar stats, but yet he wins the Heisman, and then we beat their skull in the playoffs. And where he got garbage time yards and touchdowns against us to make it look more reasonable. And Kyler's Kyler. He's not a bad quarterback. He's fine. He's when he's in the pocket, he's a bit of a non-factor in my opinion. I don't think he has an NFL arm in terms of getting quick or passes to the maybe 10-yard outs is not necessarily something that I think he has a cannon of an arm to do. I think he's capable. I think he's a capable quarterback. I think he's good when he's moving around. He's good when he has DeAndre Hopkins out there. Apparently, he's good when he has Greg Dortch. Um, but
Yeah,
that's
Greg
another.
Dortch 9. Greg
Yeah.
Dortch 9 targets. That was not on my bingo card.
See,
I'll
and
see
I
that.
know there was a lot of people that were going to Greg Dortch when Rashad Bateman was ruled out. I went to Kadarius Toney, so
Yeah,
that was a mistake. Obviously, Kyler ran 5 times, which again in a game like this where the game's getting away from you, don't run. Just don't run. Like you got no reason to. You're gonna break your legs or something. Like just leave it. But the rest of them, I mean, the receivers, Marquise Brown had a bang average game except for his touchdown. Um, Benjamin plays for them. James Conner had
yeah,
5 catches, which is interesting. I guess maybe no more Chase Edmonds, which means James Conner maybe get a little more involved in the passing game this year. Possibility. Um, Maybe it'll make up for his touchdown regression that he's bound to see after his explosive 18 touchdown season last year. And Zach Ertz was
yeah. I mean,
disappointing as well.
very. Yeah. Well, we talk about these kind of underwhelming wide receiver rooms. I think just, as long as DeAndre Hopkins is out, obviously he'll be back pretty soon. But
Yeah.
this is really underwhelming. Hollywood Brown, he's a good wide receiver too. I guess if Nuke is out, he can slide into that one spot a little bit. But outside of that, I mean, you got Dortch, crippled AJ Green, who's I wish they would just let him go to retirement. I know,
Dusty AJ
I
Green,
know
man.
they're holding him hostage, just saying, please, man, just take some snaps from us.
Just take me away. Just take me away from here, please. Yeah, I mean, just
Just
just a bad receiving core. And I do like. Did I say is it? It's not Rashad Bateman. Rondell Moore. I like Rondell Moore. I think he's a good player. Obviously, he's hurt right now. I think when you get the full receiving core out there with Marquise Brown, Zach Ertz, uh, Nuke Hopkins, and Rondell Moore, I think those 4 guys are very capable of being really good receivers in this league. But the issue is you don't have 2 of those guys. I mean, you don't have 2 of those guys. You have no depth to speak of except for Greg Dortch, who is going to take the league by storm. Um, I would assume. Man, Raiders Chargers. Again, there wasn't a whole lot to say about the Cardinals. I mean, they're I think Cliff Kingsbury's probably at the end of his rope. I think he's turned them into
yeah.
Texas Tech as much as he possibly could, and he failed at Texas Tech, and he's failing in Arizona. It is not working. It's not going to work. It's probably time to cut that cord with him. The issue is though that you drafted an undersized quarterback that is a very specific type of player. You drafted him for Cliff Kingsbury, for his needs, for his wants. So when you re-sign that quarterback and you give him the money that you gave him, you now have to find another coach that is very similar in the vein of Cliff Kingsbury. Um, and there's coaches out there like him, but and coaches will love Kyler. They really will. It's not like an issue there, but I think just with the commitment you made to Kyler, it almost feels like you kind of also made a commitment to Kingsbury because that's his guy. So weird situation there, and I don't know how long he lasts. And I know he's like maybe the odds-on favorite to be the first head coach fired this year, and I don't see, I don't know. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if they let him go at some point. But moving on, we have Vegas, we have the Chargers. This is the last game before the Sunday night debacle. Um,
Good word
yeah,
for it.
yeah, it was jeez. Chargers won in what I would call a very underwhelming game from everybody involved. I thought the Raiders were just as bad as I expected them to be in a way. They and it's not anything against Josh McDaniels because I think he's probably a good coach somewhere in there. But he has been around Bill Belichick for so long, and he has run the same offense for so long, and it's boring and it's no fun. And Derek Carr went out there and threw a lot. He did. He threw, but they were down 17-3 at halftime. He kind of had to. But man, Derek Carr, for all the people saying he was top 10 quarterback, top 5 quarterback, whatever they were saying, I think he proved them wrong Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Raiders played as bad as they could really play, especially in that first half.
Yeah.
And if you're a Raiders fan, you take away at least the positive that you had a chance, you had possession down 5. late in the game to go win it. And Derek Carr kind of shits himself and throws a pick into the game. But going forward, there are a lot of weapons. And Devontae Adams, my goodness, I mean,
Oh man,
just
yeah,
a
crazy. 17
generational
catches,
talent
17
at the
targets, insane.
yeah
Insane
a
target share.
generational talent at the wide receiver position. That double move he hit on Asante Samuel Jr. That was that was unbelievable.
That's illegal.
But no, yeah, going forward, I still like this Raiders team to make the playoffs. Probably be a wild card team. Probably 3 teams out of that division to make it. I've said before. I think the Broncos are the worst team in that division. I don't think they will make it. I think the Raiders. They looked. They played a much better team than Denver did, and and again, they had a chance. They stunk it up in the first half, and then the second half they had a chance to go win the game. So I think moving forward, that's a positive. But yeah, you're right. The Josh McDaniels,
It's going to be
Bill
interesting.
Belichick,
Yeah.
tie between each other. I think that will hinder them,
It just
especially when you
feels
get
dirty. It just feels really dirty after watching
yeah,
them kind of watching them in a similar way with Gruden. It felt like Gruden was
yeah,
a really pro style guy, and they just felt like grimy to watch because it was just like no fun. And I kind of felt the same way watching them against LA. And I'm not saying that they're going to have a terrible season. I would say pump the brakes on how like expectations for them going forward. Um, nine, 10 wins is possible. You've got 4 losses coming your way in the division, from 2 from the Chiefs and I believe 2 from the Chargers, who we'll talk about in a second. But man, and I will say I thought their defense played okay. Obviously Herbert got his, but he didn't just kill you. Austin
yeah.
Eckler was pretty much a non-factor in the game in terms of on the ground. So defensively, I thought they played fine. But you got to figure something out with Derek Carr, and he can't get sacked 5 times a game. If he gets sacked 5 times a game, he's first of all probably gonna get hurt, but second of all, he's gonna put up a turnover fest. And I do think he fumbled quite a couple times as well, right? Yeah, he fumbled twice, as well as his 3 interceptions. So Derek Carr is he's very reminiscent of Daniel Jones in a way where he's gonna turn the ball over. Like he's gonna fumble, and he will throw a couple picks, and that's the only similarity between him and Daniel Jones. But yeah, I mean, and again, like we said, target share, Vontae Adams crazy, Darren Waller, maybe a little less than you'd expect. Hunter Renfrow probably about what you would expect. Brandon Bolden, again, that's the grimy Patriot stuff I'm talking about. Like he brought Brandon Bolden with him to the
Jakob Johnson,
Yeah, I mean it's just kind of grimy and disgusting. Amir Abdullah
Yeah.
still has a job in the league. He's the Mitch Trubisky of running backs. Like, good job, man. You really are on an NFL roster, active as well. You're active on an NFL roster in 2022. Jesus.
Yeah.
Chargers on the flip side. Like I said, Herbert
Yeah, I
played
mean,
fine. I mean, he was good. Obviously, Herbert's a good quarterback. I have a disdain for Herbert because it's the forever connection to Tua, and obviously he's a better quarterback than Tua. There's no getting around that. If you're a Dolphins fan and you're deluded into thinking that he's not, then he is. But it's not really about him being a better quarterback. It's about it's not really about another person's quarterback anyway. It's about your quarterback. What can you do? What can he do? How good is he? Stop worrying about it. Herbert's better. It's fine. But he had a good game. Eckler was pretty limited against a Raiders, front 4 that's not bad. Max Crosby's obviously very good. They've got a couple guys on that defensive line that can cause problems. Keenan Allen got hurt, obviously. Hopefully he recovers. His hamstrings have taken a beating over the past decade or so, but hopefully those hamstrings will bounce back.
They are officially falling off the bone at this very juncture.
I would love to know how many hamstring injuries he's had in his career. It's got to be upwards of like 5 to 10. Mike Williams, man, people were really high on him coming into the season, and he had a stinker today or Sunday. He did 2 catches for 10 yards. That is not what you want from your wide receiver too. Gerald Everett, big part of the offense. I remember somebody telling me to play Gerald Everett in DFS, and I laughed and I said that would be a waste of money. I'd be burning money, and he, of course, had 3 catches, 54 yards, and a touchdown. So good for him.
Yeah.
Defensively for both teams, I mean, Jonathan Abram, crazy number of tackles, pretty impressive. Khalil Mack actually had a really, really crazy game. I wanted to talk about that too. 3 sacks for Khalil Mack is absurd. He's pushing 30 if he's not already 30. He's in his 30s, I believe. So to be a pass rusher, an aging pass rusher, going to a new team, and again, being on the opposite side of Joey Bosa obviously helps. Joey Bosa also had 1.5. Man, that front seven is, or at least the defensive line and the pass rushers for LA, they're a scary group to see on the other side.
Yeah, if they can stay healthy, that defense is definitely intimidating.
Yeah, for sure.
But
All
I would
right.
like to
Oh, go ahead.
talk
Yep.
about the Chargers in the second half, and it really goes back to I have a very strong disdain for Joe Lombardi,
Sure.
offensive coordinator for the Chargers. Obviously, he was in that Saints tree for a while with Drew Brees, and Drew Brees and Justin Herbert are just two completely different quarterbacks. You need to be able to stretch the field with Justin Herbert because he has the tools of like a Josh Allen.
Yeah.
And to watch him throw 5-yard stick routes, left and right. And that's what they, in the first half, they were pretty aggressive. And then the second half, they just kind of sat on the lead, throwing safe passes, screens, didn't really try to push the ball down the field. And I think that's kind of why Mike Williams struggled is, he's a big contested catch guy, one-on-one down the sideline. And he didn't really give him any chances for that. And I think that, I think the Chargers go as far as Joe Lombardi, lets Justin Herbert rip the ball down the field. If he's going to stay in this conservative, type of offense, I don't really think they're contenders personally.
No, I mean they feel like contenders. Everything about that team feels right. Their defense is good enough. Their quarterback is good enough. Their receiving core is good. Their offensive line is good, or good enough, I should say. I mean, I don't know how good, quote unquote, anybody's offensive line really is until a couple of weeks from now. But man, yeah, they feel like they have the feel of a contender. But when you look at the AFC and you look at how deep the AFC is, do you
Yeah.
really see them beating the Chiefs? Do you really see them beating some of these teams in the AFC? Because it's really hard to say. Like, do you think they beat Buffalo? Like, I don't know that they beat Buffalo. I don't know that they beat Kansas City
No.
in a playoff
No.
game. So it's hard, man. It is because they feel everything about them feels right. It feels like they're going to contend, and they are Super Bowl contenders. But realistically, when you take a step back and think about it, logically, I don't think they are real legitimate Super Bowl contenders right now. They could be, and maybe as the year develops and as the season progresses, we see like, oh, okay, well, they are for real, and they maybe they go out there and they beat the Chiefs by however many points, and we're like, oh, well, hold on, maybe they're good, but I don't know, man. They're an anomaly of a team because they have a really good quarterback, they have a really good team, and every year they seem to be 9-8. So it's a weird group. Speaking of weird group, we are going to get to what, in my opinion, was the worst of the worst.
Yeah.
I would have rather watched the Bears and Niners on repeat than watch this game again. I would rather watch the Bears and Niners all year long in the pouring rain than have to watch this game again. And I might not watch another Dallas game the rest of the season.
You have some words for Mike McCarthy?
Yeah, well, I have some words for both coaches, to be honest with you, and I think that both coaches deserve a talking to after this performance. Todd Bowles. Let's start with Todd Bowles because Todd Bowles was handpicked for this job. He was cherry picked. He was given this opportunity by Bruce Arians. Bruce Arians said, "I'm leaving, but I'm only gonna leave if you hire Todd Bowles, and I will take this executive job in the front office, and I will sit on my ass in my hat and my Hawaiian shirt, and I will watch this team that I built win a Super Bowl or thereabouts." And Todd Bowles has made this team just unfun. I had negative fun watching them play. You take a guy in Tom Brady who over the past couple of years has lit the league on fire, passing yards, passing touchdowns, has been an anomaly of a quarterback really at 43, 44 years old with the Bucks.
45.
Yeah, now he's 45, right? But getting there at 43, 44, and then 45,
Yeah.
lighting the league on fire. And you made him and this offense so boring. You made this team so boring to watch. Against the Dallas Cowboys, you couldn't muster a touchdown until the third quarter. And it's not even, it almost felt like it was for lack of trying. Like,
Yeah,
it felt like you have a defensive-minded head coach who is thinking, I want to win the game by 3 points. It is that approach. It's the Brian Flores approach is what I call it, where you don't care how much you win by. You just want to win. And if you coach like that, you deserve to lose every game you coach. Because that is, first of all, boring. And second of all, it's a great way to just get your ass kicked by somebody who's going out there to put points on the board every time they touch the ball.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I feel like me and you, we have the same, similar, ideal of head coach and, aggressiveness and just to watch them. And I understand Dallas, they weren't really moving the ball. You probably, I get the mindset of the only way they're going to get back in this game is if we turn it over. And even, hell, Tom Brady threw an interception at midfield and Dallas did, jack shit with it, punted it right back away when I think they were down 16 at midfield in the fourth quarter, just.
Man.
But yeah, I mean, just not aggressive at all. And the hope is that moving forward, they trust the offensive line just a little bit more. And Tom Brady's back to being Tom Brady. With those weapons, Mike Evans, hopefully Chris Godwin, obviously is okay. Yeah. Julio Jones looks like he got a blast from the past as well.
Back.
So
super duper back. I drafted him in the third to last round in our season long fantasy draft, and it was a panic. It was a panic pick, but he's back. He's super back. 48-yard catch. I mean, yeah, Mike Vrabel. I'll never forgive him. Never forgive him for what he did to Julio last year. He forced Julio to get injured, and he just. I don't blame him. Yeah, I mean, part of me wonders if Bruce Arians handpicked Byron Leftwich, if this team would be the same, or if they would be a little more fun to watch.
I think they would be. I think
it could have just been Bruce. It really could have just been Bruce, but it really does beg the question of, did Bruce pick the right guy to kind of not necessarily leave his legacy to him, right? Because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are not Bruce Arians' legacy. He has a legacy that far extends past this, but to leave what was just a golden opportunity for you to continue coaching and continue winning football games and kind of expound on your legacy, even or expand your legacy, I should say. But do you leave it to the right guy? Because Todd Bowles is a failure nearly everywhere he's been. At least as a head coach, he was a failure in New York, and obviously you could say, oh, the Jets were bad, but this Tampa Bay team did not look good to me. I thought their defensive line and their front seven looked a little soft, which was surprising because last year I thought they had the best front seven in football in terms of stopping the run. They looked a little soft. Zeke had 5.2 a carry. Tony Pollard was dog shit. So every time I needed Zeke to do something, Tony Pollard stepped in and he shit the bed. Just I don't know. Tampa Bay. I thought their corners looked good. I thought their secondary looked a lot better than it did last year. So that's a positive, I guess. But speaking of their corners, they had the night off. Fortunately, they didn't really have to do a lot because Dak Prescott cemented his legacy as a bottom 10 quarterback in the NFL in this season. This is that's hyperbole, by the way. It's obviously not true, but this is one of the worst quarterback performances that I've seen in a Sunday night football game of a game against what people would consider to be fairly evenly matched opponents. Dak Prescott shit down his leg today or Sunday night. I mean, just horrible, just horrible play, and it was a lack of confidence. It was a lack of arm talent that I didn't see. There was just so much wrong with Dak. And Dallas fans, I know half of Dallas fan base is going to love to hear this because, man, Dak was terrible.
Yeah, I mean, it was just ridiculous to watch. I mean, it was him, and it's Kellen Moore lining up under center and handing the ball off every first down. There's no creativity, hardly any creativity within the offense. I mean, it really just stems back to the whole, Jerry Jones, Stephen Jones. I mean, honestly, they are the head coach. They're the GM. They're the owners.
Yeah.
They're everything to the Cowboys, and I think that's what ultimately is going to, kind of cement them in this purgatory area where they're not going to compete for a Super Bowl.
Never.
They're not going to be bad enough to where they get this top pick. They're just going to
No.
be 8-9, 9-8, and let's hope to compete for the playoffs. Yeah, they're another team that let Amari Cooper walk,
Yep.
and I just don't understand in this day and age. You need weapons on the outside. Your wide receiver room was so good last year with Cooper, Gallup, and CeeDee Lamb, and just to let him just leave like that is just unbelievable to me. And all the Cowboys fans that are calling for Sean Payton, I don't really think Sean Payton is a puppet. Like
Why would
because
he want
obviously,
that job? Why would he
yeah,
want
I,
that
I
job? Like they can
yeah,
say,
that
"Oh, he's a Cowboys fan. Oh, we'll give him a $1 billion." You would have to build Sean Payton a statue before he stepped foot in AT&T Stadium for him to take that job.
yeah, and I just
His
don't think.
legacy is cemented. He is a Super Bowl winning
Yeah,
coach. Now he underachieved, but he won a Super Bowl.
yeah.
I
I
mean,
just, I just don't, because Jerry Jones and Steve Jones, they are puppet masters, and they're going to get the guy that they think that they can control. I mean, hell, like we've heard from them about Dak's injury, a day before Mike McCarthy, said anything about it, and Jason Garrett, he wasn't allowed to speak until fucking Wednesday. It's just they they are going to control whoever is quote unquote in charge. They're not really in charge,
yeah,
and I don't see Sean Payton. Obviously I don't know him personally, but viewing from as a fan of the
right.
sport, I don't believe he's one of those kind of guys. He wants to do stuff his way, and I don't think them butting heads that will work well. So
Yeah,
I
I agree.
sorry, I don't think you will see Sean Payton in a quarter zip up on the sideline with a headset on for your
Dude, yeah, I
America.
mean, I completely agree. I don't see the vision of where Dallas is going, and I think that's the issue. There's no vision, there's no direction, there's no anything. It feels like you sank your cap and all of your money into a quarterback that is not good and a running back that is good. Like Zeke on his day when he is healthy and when he is interested is a good running back. He is fine. But you paid him to make him the top paid running back in the league when you paid him. And
Mm-hmm.
he got lapped by Leonard Fournette. And in carries and yards, he got lapped. And Leonard Fournette is on like $1 million a year. Like, I mean, he's not, but just for sake of the argument, in comparison to Zeke, he is, right?
Oh,
So
yeah,
you've got a quarterback that you paid all this money to. First of all, he's injury prone, and maybe you can say, oh, there's bad luck injuries. That's fine. But he gets hurt. I say the same thing about Tua. Tua has bad luck injuries, dude. He shattered his hip. He sprained his ankle. He broke his finger. He broke his ribs because Jesse Davis let somebody kill him. But guess what? He got hurt all those times, right? Even if it's not his fault, it's dumb luck. But he's injury prone. He gets hurt a lot. Dak Prescott gets hurt a lot. Um, and again, I'm disappointed the fact that he got hurt because I think he robbed us of an opportunity to just see how bad he could be this year. Because I think he was going to get exposed, and I'm not saying like, oh, he got hurt on purpose. That's ridiculous. But he was going to. I think this is the year where Dak really gets exposed as being not a good quarterback, in my personal opinion. Now, he would obviously have good games. When they play the Commanders, he probably would light their ass up for 350 because the Commanders secondary is not very good. But like you put him against a competent defense, a competent defensive coach, and he shit his pants.
yeah,
There's nothing else to say. He threw it to Dennis Houston a million times.
yeah,
A nobody. Now I will say CD got 11 targets. That's a lot. CD is not the long term answer at receiver for that team. At least it's not a wide receiver one. And it goes back to you pay Zeke, you pay Dak. You can't afford Cooper anymore. You don't feel like you need to afford Cooper anymore, I guess is a better way of saying it. But man, and not that Amari Cooper changes this game because Amari Cooper had his own issues in Cleveland with Jacoby Brissett. Uh, man, I mean, it feels like you could have used him, wouldn't have hurt.
Yeah.
and Dallas was a train wreck. And Mike McCarthy should be ashamed of himself. He should be ashamed for a lot of different reasons, but the main reason that I'm discussing is that he punted on 4th and 8 from midfield.
4th and 8 at
Yeah,
midfield with about 10 to, I want to say 9 to go in the fourth
yeah,
quarter, down 16 when your offense hasn't really sniffed midfield
yeah.
the whole game, and you kind of just waved a white flag there and said, "Hey, I don't want to get beat 26-3 or 27-3. Let's just
Exactly.
lose 19."
And that brings us to the name of this podcast. The name of this podcast is the Go on Fourth podcast. Go on fourth, dude. Just go on fourth. It's fine. You can go on fourth, man. It's not a big deal. You can. You can. You're at midfield. It's 4th and 8. Go on fourth. Just go. Don't punt. You punt. You give up. Don't give up. Don't do that in life. Don't give up in life. Right? You get to a 4th down in your life. Don't punt. Just go. Especially if you're at midfield. You know what I mean? Like
Exactly.
into the game. Just don't fucking punt. Like you just give the game away for what? Like for what purpose? And they got the ball back. They didn't even score. Tampa didn't even score because Todd Bowles didn't want to score. They didn't score. They ran 3 minutes off the clock and punted it back to you. Got to 15 instead. Oh fuck! Great. Good job. Even more so if you're going against a coach, and Mike McCarthy is cerebral enough, you would assume, after 25 years in the league to know this. When you're going against a defensive-minded coach, you go on 4th down at the 50, he's going to run the ball 3 fucking times and punt back. He's not going to try to fucking score. Todd Bowles doesn't want to score a touchdown. He just wants to win. He's going to run the ball, run the clock, and punt. And Tom Brady can do all the bitching he wants. But guess what? You missed 11 days worth of camp, and Todd Bowles is running that fucking ball. So, Mike McCarthy, you got to grow some fucking nuts. Actually, you got to get out of Dallas. You got to go. They got to fire you. Promote Kellen Moore. Let him be the interim coach this year. See how he does. If he does terrible, then you find somebody else. If he does great, you keep him. But man, Mike McCarthy cannot be allowed to coach another down of football in this lifetime. For me personally, he will. Inevitably
Yeah.
he'll be the coach next week. He will go back out there, looking sloppy and disgusting. He'll punt on 4th down from the opponent's 35, and and Twitter will clown him, and the beat writers will clown him, and everybody will make fun of him. But at the end of the day,
He will be in Dallas,
he
and
will
he
be in
will
Dallas.
enjoy some nice Dallas barbecue after the
Barbecue,
games,
yes.
and it's really, no worries for him.
Man, and honestly, it really is just it's what I love about football, for one, is that I can get fired up talking about the Dallas Cowboys, and I don't give a shit about the Dallas Cowboys. I could not care less. But when I'm watching that football game and I see Mike McCarthy punt, and I don't remember what my I'm sure I had underdog on it, something, right? But I don't. It doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter. I think it was CD and Dak, because I think Dak was still in the game at that point. But man, yeah, I mean, it's what makes football so great, is that we can watch it, we can rip it to pieces, and we can see terrible, shitty coaching, and just think, man, we could do it better, even if we can't. And that's the beautiful thing about it.
And at the very worst, I promise that I can go out. We can go out there, put that headset on, put that hat on, put the quarter zip on,
Yep,
and we can punt the ball at 4th and 8 from the 50. I can
absolutely,
make that call. I mean,
absolutely.
that's
Anybody could, anybody could.
yeah.
It is the safest, easiest. I don't want to lose my job. Call that you could possibly make. Whereas Brian Daboll went out there with his nuts hanging between his legs, gracefully, and went for 2 and won the football game. Mike McDaniel, nuts, firmly planted in the wheelbarrow that Tyreek put them
Fourth
in.
and what, 8?
Fourth and 7 from the 50. Halftime, right before halftime, he even said in the press conference, he said, it was an interesting call because all it took was 1 first down for them, and they're in field goal range. But you know what? Sometimes, like Tyreek said, you got to put your nuts in the wheelbarrow, dude, and just lug them around. And those are the types of coaches that we should believe in. Those types of coaches that we should prop up as heroes of the game. Whereas Mike McCarthy is the type of coach that we need to bully him out of the league. Like, sign petitions, go to the games and hold up banners that say "Fire Mike McCarthy," because this guy right here is not a real, legitimate football coach in the year 2022. It is a farce that he's a football coach. And there's a lot of other coaches this week that had some stinkers.
Oh yeah.
Tonight included, Monday night included. If you're not listening on Tuesday or Monday or whatever. But Mike McCarthy, in my opinion, was the worst coach this week, and deserves to be uh, bullied out of the
Well,
league.
yeah. I mean, I'll still put Nathaniel Hackett. That 2 minute drive
I agree.
is one of the worst coaching blunders, coaching malpractices, whatever you want to call it, that I probably have ever really
I
seen.
completely agree. I do. I completely agree with that.
Yeah, but if you want to put them 1A and 1B, that's perfectly fine.
Only reason I don't give it to Nathaniel Hackett is his first ever head coaching game.
Right.
He grossly mismanaged it. He was disgusting that you kick a field goal at 65 whatever yard field goal. You freak. You knew it wasn't going in, and you kicked it anyway. And then McManus, they called a timeout. Oh, that's the worst. They called a timeout.
Yeah.
They called a timeout, and McManus missed
It,
it, and he
yeah.
still went for it. He still went to field goal. You freak.
Yeah.
You
He missed it. He missed
suck.
it short and wide,
This
and
is
they
so
gave you a
bad.
lifeline. They threw you a raft
They
and say, "Here,
did.
go win the game."
They threw
And you
you a
said,
raft and you flipped the raft over and drowned underneath it. Like they literally just they you oh man, you are a fraud. You are fraud. But you're not as big a fraud as Mike McCarthy because it was your first game, and maybe you'll get better. You'll learn from your mistakes. You're still a fairly young guy, right? 40s maybe, 50s.
yeah,
Mike
with head
McCarthy's
coaching
younger.
out the first game, he hopefully, like you said, hopefully he'll
Just
progress and
learn from it,
get
man. I mean, it's your first game jitters. You make a stupid mistake. Hopefully, he came out in the press conference and was like, "Wow, that was a stupid thing I just did." The whole game plan was stupid from Hackett, but at least he's not Mike McCarthy, man. At least he gets to go home. He gets to look down, see his toes. Uh, like he's got a lot going for him. Mike McCarthy, you need to be bullied out of the league, man. I'm sorry, you're not welcome here. This is my league. I watch this sport for fun and for money, and you cost me both on Sunday night, and for that I'm forever against you as long as I walk this earth. As long as you're a head football coach,
yeah.
unless you
Because I
go to
mean, at
Nebraska. If you
least
go to Nebraska,
if
Mike, you go to
if,
Nebraska,
if
we can talk.
yeah, if you're gonna lose some money, at least have fun watching the game.
Man, exactly. That's what I'm saying. I can't. And I learned a lot of teams that I can't bet on. I can't put money on this week, and Dallas is definitely one of them because I can't let Mike McCarthy even get a whiff of any of the money that I make in my day to
Yeah,
day.
because he will definitely take that money and eat it like
Oh
everything
yeah,
else that he
he's
sees.
eating it. Yeah, he's eating it for sure. And again, we're not fat shaming Mike McCarthy. He deserves it. If you're fat out there and you're listening, and at least you're not a shitty football coach on top of it. Well, this was a 2-hour extravaganza week one.
Sure
These will
was.
become these will definitely get truncated over time. We'll get a better system because I want to do this all year. I'd like to do it for the draft too because I think it'd be fun to break down prospects and kind of
Oh yeah.
look at dudes coming in from the draft. I can't guarantee that we're always going to be together and we're always going to do these videos together. These videos we certainly will. Other videos, other podcasts, however you're listening to this, however you're consuming this entertainment, if you want to call it that, will be every week, and it will be me and Sparty as well. We'll be here doing this. During the week, I would like to do some DFS stuff. I would like to do some prop betting, which I think you'd probably join me on that one.
Yeah.
Just talking some spreads, talking some player props, and what we like. Probably do some college and some NFL. Might as well. We got those won't be 2 hours either. So don't get used to the 2 hour thing. That's crazy because I got work in the morning. It's already 2 o'clock in the morning. But we just had to talk about the Broncos game after this, man. It was a nightmare. So again, if you enjoyed it, be on the lookout for some more stuff. If you're watching on YouTube, do the YouTube stuff, like, comment, subscribe, all that. And yeah, we will be back. We'll talk about DFS. We'll talk about season-long fantasy. If you're into that type of thing, talk about some waiver wire guys. Maybe you should pick up. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about when it comes to that stuff, but I'll give you some advice. If you take it, great. And if I'm right, then even better. All right.
And always remember, going forth.
Go on forth, man. Just go on forth. You don't want to be Mike McCarthy. That's the last thing you want to be is Mike McCarthy. You don't want to be that. Go on forth.
Yep.
Peace.